We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Go on without me. Just go.
A good soldier never leaves a man behind.
Because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for all your fancy rules if behind them they didn't have a little bit of plain, ordinary, everyday kindness.
Life, finds a way.
Welcome to Silver Screen Biases. Each week we pick a movie off of IMDb's Top 250 and dig into it. We're examining truth claims in critically acclaimed movies while also examining our own biases. I'm Nelson.
This is Jeff.
And this week,
L.A. Confidential.
This episode is brought to you by our community on Patreon. They make this show happen and you can help. Links to our Patreon and merchandise are in the show notes. Now back to the show.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Jeff. It's good to see you again.
You
It's
too.
been entire days.
It's been days. We're doing a French movie today.
That's right.
La
Confidential.
Confidential. Yeah. Tim, did you watch the wrong film?
I wasn't sure if you were going to introduce me or not. So I wasn't sure. I also was really trying to make sure that I wasn't breathing. Like,
Please breathe.
well, yeah, just like listening to myself breathe while you guys are having this nice little like snappy
Banter.
dialogue.
Yeah.
It was cute.
It's scripted
And I was
banter.
Like, what if I'm in the background?
Our writers wrote that.
Yeah, there's no way I could possibly mute just your mic.
Tim, welcome. Our guest today for this episode is Tim. This was his pick for the film. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing well. Tim is from SOAPBOXR, where he's providing the studio for us.
That's right. He's been hosting us graciously,
yes.
and we have not had a better host. Maybe Lindsay.
When they say
maybe Lindsay hosted us better. For the
We'll
last
get her
year.
feedback on a future episode.
When they say
If she ever hears
host, I
this.
provide them with a child's desk and about 6 square feet, and I say, "Don't touch anything." No, and actually, last week they recorded here, and I didn't even know they were here. So it's been a great.
That's
It's
right.
called a partnership. Even though there's really nothing we're partnering
You
on.
get nothing from this,
and
Tim.
you get nothing either, really, except for a warm place.
Suppose you get our companionship.
Yeah, and even that
That I wouldn't want.
Yeah, I didn't ask for that.
It's not really a win-win.
No,
That's really it. I might charge you for the companionship, guys.
but Nelson did come in, and I was in here working the one night, and I said, "Did you guys even record this week?" He said, "Yeah, why?" I said, well, everything is pristine, nothing was moved.
He didn't find the pee in the corner.
Well, I did, but
It's too cold for it to start smelling.
That was mine.
yeah, I don't remember leaving
You
that
found
there.
Tim's pee corner. But Tim, before we get into your interview questions, just is there anything about you that you'd like the listeners to know about yourself? Or if
Well,
not, we can move into the interview questions.
I'm a guy who does stuff, and I know people, and that's what led me here. And that's probably way too profound for this podcast, but
There's so much things to unpack there.
no. I mean, what would you like to know about me? I have
Um,
some things. I should write a book though.
What do you do for a living? Where do you spend most of your time?
No, that's
Monday
an important
through-
question.
That's an even harder question.
Yeah.
than
That's actually really important for context, Jeff, because there are some technical things. So my main source of income is I make commercial. It's called a. You're gonna have to cut this.
He
out,
doesn't even
Nelson.
know.
Well, Corpo Doc. That's where I'm trying. I'm gonna say that over again. Nelson, cut here. What I do mostly for making the boys laugh already. What I do mostly is what's called Corpo Doc, or corporate documentary. So documentary style footage that is selling a corporate product. So it's not like super over the top commercialized, like lighting, makeup, catering, huge crews. It's very much like gritty, telling the story of like, if I was selling this mic stand, I would shoot the reason why the company started in the first place and really dig into the feels and get footage that reflects that, not necessarily that overproduced that I absolutely cannot stand modern commercials and the way they're shot. But that provides you with some context.
Yeah.
What I liked about, the movie, and, I have a little bit more insight than probably your average guest on like how things are done from a technical standpoint,
Sweet.
or, how the sausage is made. So
Of like big company commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that what you do is more similar to your average car commercial?
I would say I don't even know how to describe it. I think it's like I said, I mean, there are big production stuff that we do. But at the end of the day, it's meant to feel pretty raw. It's not meant to feel like this is a silly produced commercial. And in my mind, I can't even suspend the belief that this woman is in a kitchen trying to use this dish soap because it looks so incredibly unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
But like the average viewer, I know doesn't have that. They're just like, oh, a clean kitchen. They're just selling me this detergent works really great.
Yeah.
According to them, 66% better than the leading detergent.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
And you do a lot of projects that are like long term, meant to be used over long periods of time. Like
Yeah.
some of the products that you'll do specific clips about or something, like those are meant to go on websites or
Yeah,
go
yeah.
for customers to be sent so they
Pretty
can see the
evergreen.
catalog.
That's
of
why we do
events.
shoot on cinema cameras like Reds, Blackmagic. I got to
We don't say magic on this.
There's a lot of words I'm not allowed to say. Turns
I'm
out.
gonna have to quack that one out.
No, the idea is that the quality is high enough that it can be used evergreen and recut later if we need to. And but yeah, I mean, and it really it's kind of a fun. I like the genre specifically because I get to interact with like all sizes of clients and I literally meet all sizes. Like I have startups,
Tall guys, fat guys, short guys,
Bald guys.
I really can't
hairy
work
guys.
with short guys. It's too much. They're not raw enough. They're always fake.
And I guess I have some insight just because I've known you for almost 12 years now.
400
Almost 12 years now. About approximately 12
I am
years.
a vampire.
And you've had your feet in the door at some public gigs as well too, concerts, some sporting events and stuff like that. So you've got a wide range of experience and stuff you bring to the table when it comes to different environments and stuff as far as what you're.
And I think that's
capturing.
I mean, like what I do doesn't change, but the venue and the customer does. So like if I'm shooting I do have a country music festival. It's a client. It's a fairly large one, but like the goal is the same. I'm trying to show like people having a great time.
The heart.
Like we even did like
Bunch of drunk hillbillies.
I mean, and you're absolutely right. Like when you boil it down, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But
I'm
like
aware.
I'm showing like, my friend Vince is he has cerebral palsy and we did a mini doc sponsored by the Country Fest and a local tree service called Road Tree Solutions.
Yeah.
They sponsored it.
They're great.
And we basically covered like why this guy is in a wheelchair. He's been to every Country Fest for like the last several years. And that's like his Super Bowl. It's what he looks forward to every year. And this dude is just so generous and kind. He has no reason to be that way. Like he has every reason to be bitter. That's what attracted me to him actually, is I met him and I kind of got a little bit of a story through his aunt. And it's like, dude, this guy has the worst life. Like physically, his life is miserable. And I'm over here complaining about my first world problems. Like,
He also lives in the first world.
To our knowledge.
Dude, I actually know where he lives. He lives in a little town just south of here. So, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's like his every day. Like, I recently was in a cast, and just like
For what movie?
I had
Was it a stage play?
Yeah, musical.
Musical.
I had a cast on my arm.
And
Okay. Just the inconvenience of like showering and like typing. And I'm like, this guy has a permanently fused spine. Like they surgically fused his hips and his spine because he was, he's basically shaped like a cashew.
Yeah.
The fruit of the seed.
But yes, yes to all. He, one of his hands, he has, that kind of typical like,
Cerebral palsy hand.
Palsy, yeah. He's got like non-working hand. It's kind of like frozen in a certain position, unusable. And so he kind of does everything with one hand. And he's still got a great attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets a little bored, but he's got a job. He's got a girlfriend. She's pretty nice. I met her. She's cool.
That's awesome.
And like, we shot a little mini doc about him. So like the point is that whether it's, a multi-gajillion dollar corporation that's selling tools or cars or whatever it is, or like, a guy in a wheelchair, like I can ideally use a camera to tell that story and make people go, I want to be a part of that. So that's kind of what I do. And
Cool.
Yeah.
We got a couple interview questions for you.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump into this movie here. So first one.
What's your biggest secret?
Sorry.
I have
I hijacked the interview.
I mean, okay, go ahead and answer.
I don't have a lot of protruding moles. I have the flat ones, but I have one of those, like, how some moles, like, they stick out? Like, you have one on your face.
I have one.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I wouldn't change it. It's part of who you are. The listeners don't know, and they are probably like, what? He has a mole on his face.
I just thought that was his
That's
nose.
my nose, Tim.
That's my third
yeah,
nipple.
I've got one by my eye.
Yep. Mine don't protrude. Mine are mostly flat, kind of, akin to a freckle. I
How
have,
did we get here?
well, you asked me about my
deepest
big secret. I have a very pronounced protruding mole in my gooch, or the taint, the area between balls and butthole. And when I was little, I
Got
discovered
a nubbins
it,
down there.
and I was like, I have cancer. I got to get this thing off. So I tried to like scratch it off, and it hurt really bad. And I've grown to accept it. I've never really seen it firsthand.
You get a couple mirrors.
Yeah, I did have.
You got some very expensive cameras. I'm sure you can
I busted
capture
out the red. To get a really great.
Put some magic
8K,
on that,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
Just
The lighting. Never,
Yeah.
never been well
I
about
have
like
some of the best lighting in the world. Yeah. Very color accurate. And I
Send it to a doctor. He says, "Yeah, it's probably fine."
I don't know if I'd say it's my biggest secret, but I'd say that's the thing that
It's
people
definitely not a
don't.
secret now.
Yeah.
But
But
is that your usual go-to break the ice question?
no, it just came to me.
All 10 of our listeners are now going to know how to identify you.
Yeah. If I'm a corpse,
You're a corpse,
so I'd be
yeah.
like, lift
Which
the balls.
brings us back to this movie.
Yeah.
Identifying bodies. No, like, Tim, how would you describe yourself politically? What's your political biases?
It's interesting if you like my subjective experience is that I would be a libertarian. I don't like any form of government really, and so most people would say I'm conservative leaning because that's what libertarians tend to get that. Honestly, though, every political litmus test I've ever taken, I'm actually leaning more liberal on a lot of things, mostly because I don't want the government involved. And for some things, that means like my stance on like gay marriage and abortion. I'm like, well, I'm not one to call the kettle black. And so if I don't want a mask or a vaccine mandated, then who am I to say what other people can do? And that is perceived as, oh, you're liberal. I'm like, no, I just don't think I'm not saying it's morally right. I'm not.
You don't want to restrict things. You don't want the government restricting.
Right. I don't think it's my place to say that. I'm not playing God. So, but we love to lump people into categories. And so it's like, oh, no, all life is sacred. I'm like, well, I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying it's not my place to tell you what you can do. And I don't think it's the government's either. I think we have a moral compass issue. But as far as like, I think I don't fall into a camp, and I think that's where I end up being in that libertarian. I'm actually on the last political litmus test I took. I was.
Is that an actual test?
Political compass test.
Yeah,
I need to take that.
It's really interesting because
curious to see how
let's pause right now and have Jeff take that.
I'm curious to see how it come out on that.
I actually fell into left leaning, but
left of center
and anarchist. Yeah. So like all the way at the very bottom and a little bit on the left.
Does that test encompass all the other different? Not denominations.
It'll catch every type of political ideology.
Okay. It's not just Republican and Democrat.
No. I am as far bottom right as you can get on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll need to take that because I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's interesting too. The one I took,
link below, political compass test.
There you go. Interestingly enough, this one tells you like here's some famous people and where they fall in this.
Yeah.
And I was.
Is that? Do you think it's accurate?
I don't know.
Some of the ones I've seen,
it's interesting, but
it like sometimes it's pretty accurate. Other times, like that's not even close to what that person is politically.
Yeah. I was dead nuts for Gandhi. I was right on Gandhi. We were exactly the same.
That's who you look like.
Benjamin Kingsley.
Oh my gosh. I see it now.
Interestingly enough,
6 pages.
My brother, I sent it to him. He's a little bit extreme in some ways. And I was just curious to see if we were similar. And he was top right, authoritarian,
monarchism.
Conservative. Yeah. And
the very top right corner would be monarchism.
I kid you not, his celebrity political twin was Adolf Hitler.
So, and this actually gets to where I think that's wrong. Is Adolf Hitler is dead center top.
Yeah.
Because
did you fart?
I did. That was me.
Oh my.
Because the left right on a political compass is collectivist, individualist, and that's more economic and like and stuff like that. So Hitler on sometimes when you look at like political compass things and here's some famous people, sometimes Hitler will be top right, sometimes he'll be top center. I think top center is more accurate.
And obviously, I mean, if we jump into this a little bit, like we know what we know about Hitler, but like
I think that a lot of people are very, very wrong about Hitler.
Right, but something that's set apart over time.
And to be clear, he's a bad guy.
Right. I see that it would have that ability to kind of shift a little bit as the way we label things and the way conservative and liberal semi-evolves. So like I can see how something as dynamic as Hitler would have that ability to adjust over time. I get that. Yeah, still a bad dude.
No spoiler, but that is the second time that Jeff has led down a path that is touched on today's movie. But
the first one was before recording.
Yeah,
I'm a prophet. So okay. Second question was that it for the political question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Same synopsis, just different category. How would you what are your religious biases?
My religious biases are I'm trying to say this without sounding douchey or pretentious. I am, I guess, what the world would consider a Christian, but I don't really subscribe. It's actually just like politics. I don't subscribe to, on one side, let's say one side is like Catholicism and one side is like,
Protestantism.
Megachurch Protestant. Yeah. Like straight, like prosperity, like all that, the kind of stuff that makes you cringe. I'm more like,
hey, we're having Joel Osteen on next episode.
Can't wait.
Just be careful.
That would actually be a huge get for us.
That would be massive.
I don't know if it'd be a good thing. Well,
not for him.
Yeah. But again, I feel like I don't like to be categorized by those things. And again, this is going to sound maybe a little pretentious, but I try to live in a way that I literally just think, what would Jesus do in a situation? Right. And like really putting that into practice means like some uncomfortable things. It's not like the fluffy, what would Jesus do of like when we were in youth group and you wear a little bracelet and it's like, oh, Jesus would be nice to this person. It's like, no,
flip over tables in church for
exactly.
For money changing.
Jesus got pissed.
Yeah.
Like, not
you
all
call religious leaders brood of vipers.
Yeah, like so there are time again, we're going down the same path over and over. There are times when I don't believe in gray area, and I think that is part of a big part of the movie we're about.
That actually does surprise me.
Yeah, I don't.
You're a
think
black
there's-
and white type of guy.
I don't think there's a gray area.
Okay.
I'll explain it when I get there.
Yeah.
and you'll
Well-
it might blow your mind. It might blow both of your
and
minds.
again, I'm just diving a little deeper just because you and I have a past.
Come in deep with me, baby.
Have you always been in a
Gay?
lifestyle that's had some sort of acknowledgement of Christianity, or is this something that you came into as an adult?
No, I think I was raised so like years 0 through 6. My dad's side of the family was Catholic.
Okay.
So baptized.
Lots of wine, lots of bread.
Yep. I never got into it, but I didn't do all, in that stage of life.
I didn't know you grew up Catholic.
Well, grew up I was 6. It wasn't like
Most of your childhood.
we didn't do the cataclysm. I didn't do the classes. I didn't
Cataclysm?
What's it called?
Catechism.
Catechism.
Cataclysm is like when there's a massive natural
That's
disaster.
right. Nelson, cut this.
Nope, that's all staying into.
Great. I'm looking like a moron. Catechism. I didn't do catechism.
Now you're in good company.
It's called catechism.
I would, yeah, that's it. That's a Pokemon term. I didn't do community. I wasn't old enough. So then my parents moved out where we are now, and we tried some different churches. Landed at the church we are now, which is where all 3 of us go. And
Easy.
So,
I don't want their listeners to know I go to church.
so I have been.
I'm the
there
edgy one.
since I was 6.
Jeff and I go together. Jeff and I go to church together. Tim and I go to church together, but Jeff and Tim don't go to church together.
It's like a really stupid math problem.
It's like a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
No,
But
okay.
8th grade, I went to, I kind of had a typical experience. 8th grade, I went to a youth conference, felt some kind of emotion that led me to make a decision. And interesting story, my brother, same brother who's Adolf Hitler brother.
Yeah.
His best friend was there.
Seems kind of neat.
Yeah. He was the one that led me in the salvation prayer,
That's awesome.
which was cool, and I did feel, change from then on. I got baptized as an adult, because it didn't mean anything to me. When
I remember your video.
Yeah. It was
I remember your
How did you film yourself getting baptized?
Someone else did.
Oh, okay.
But then,
Selfie stick.
Yeah.
no,
That'd been awesome.
they did a little interview video before your baptism. I remember that.
Yes. Interesting though, that guy who led me to salvation, or led me to the salvation prayer, through the salvation prayer, was my brother's best friend. And about 2 years ago, he killed himself. So that's a fun little way to just send this whole experience that we're having right now into
Deep dark
very
territory.
dark place. He was an Iraq vet. He came home. He had a lot of alcohol problems. Had to quit. Didn't want to. Locked himself in his apartment. Drank himself to death on purpose. So
It's horrifying.
In a way, he didn't quit, but also did.
he had to quit forever.
He quit forever, but also, he's like, I'm going to be drunk for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yep. And oddly enough, within 2 months of that happening, another friend of mine did the exact same thing, who also had PTSD from military.
Were they?
They didn't know each other.
They
were
did- they
completely
had no
unrelated.
connection,
Yeah,
okay.
it was just complete. They would have had no way of knowing each other. One was Marines, one was Army too. So it's not even
Oh,
like
they
could
hate
serve
each other.
together. Oh yeah, that's probably why.
Like I didn't have a spike for the first one.
And that's how I found Jesus.
It's
Alcoholism and suicides. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this a dozen times before in different episodes that talk about war and stuff, but it's one of those things that just it burns me up that these young men get lied to and deceived into thinking that there's going to be glory in defending their countries by going overseas and blowing up brown kids, and it messes them up forever. And then they don't have the support structure when they get back because now they're a used product that the government doesn't care about anymore. And
Not to
collateral
get
damage.
too deep into this already, but not everyone signs up in the military for glory.
no.
Not everyone's
it's a
going into
career
it for the
option.
promise
Yeah.
of glory.
Right.
It's like,
The other-
but
it's either
so
that
just
or to blow things up
Mm.
and kill people legally.
No.
I know that there's
Okay.
I know that there's
other reasons.
Yeah.
I know that there's other reasons.
Okay.
But,
But
there are-
but don't put everyone in the camp of they're all enlisting for glory.
you know
and
what?
fame.
I'm doubling down. Every single person.
Logic is out the window.
I think we don't agree there's a couple of reasons, but yes, I mean, I think especially at that age, it's like, I'm going to go over and be a patriot for my
Yeah.
country, and I'm going to do amazing things. And reality is you spend a lot of time very lonely, very bored, and then you have a pocket of complete and utter chaos
Yeah.
with extreme violence back to extreme boredom.
Alone in aloneness.
Yeah. And so it is not good for people at all. And we know that. And I don't know what to do to change it, but that's my story. I'm not a military guy, but
However, one of your many career paths.
oh my gosh.
is,
I was going to ask you guys how much you wanted me to get into the weird stuff, the weeds. I have 3 different lives. So I have my own business.
but
which
only
is,
one family.
that you know.
Let's lean into this.
I don't want Tim explain.
I do. So this again goes back to my, the perception that I'm conservative. Is I teach gun safety. I teach people how to shoot safely, and I can give CCW classes here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I work with people, the more I think that we shouldn't have guns because people are insane and terrible and they don't practice. And then I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this is super dangerous. But the stats show that, the more guns that are in the hands of good people, the crime does go down. It's statistically factual. So I'm really like firmly playing in the middle on that one too. Is like
in the gray area.
Yeah, there's no gray area.
Gotcha.
There is no gray
Got
area.
him.
Got him.
Episode over.
Bum, ba-dum,
You're
bum.
just waiting to get me on this Second Amendment stuff. That's the whole. It was a
Because
ruse.
Nelson and I are definitely on the same page about this.
Are you really?
No, I want McNukes.
I'm not
You've
anti.
seen my McNukes shirt, Tim.
We've talked about this in previous episodes. I'm not anti-gun. I know you included many people that own guns and that I respect and I feel safe with that have guns. But at the same time, I don't think it's someone that everyone should have easily access to.
and
So,
I'm more on your
he
side
thinks
of that.
everyone should have guns.
Yeah. I'm more on your side because when you say
I don't think everybody should have guns.
Okay,
I think
I
that
didn't think-
everybody that wants to have guns should have guns.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that I want that
it's
when
too
my
broad of
parents,
a term.
with my parents looking out for me saying, no, Jeff, you don't want that. After a while, I'm like, you're right. I didn't want that. It just looked like something I want. Like, it's like, so for the ability for us to want something is questionable.
Well, want. Everyone. There's two words that are important: everyone and want. So I'd say everyone who need, yes, or those who legally and have the mental capacity, sure, want, need, whatever. It's the danger I see a lot is people who want guns, and that's fine. It's your right if you don't have any legal reasons not to own a gun. But then they buy them, and then I've seen people almost shoot their own foot off at the gun range, and I'm like, you shouldn't. I don't care how much you want this. You shouldn't have it. You can't demonstrate to me that you're safe. You know what you're doing, and that could have been my foot, and then you'd be going to prison, and I would be without a foot, and that's not okay. So it's kind of like the argument of like, where does my right to punch end? And where does your face's right to exist begin? So
and Nelson and I's perspective on this, like him and I share the same perspective on him with like when it comes to like substances. Like I'm on completely the other end when it goes to like, just whatever, just legalize it. Like let people use whatever they want. Like so like him and I see eye to eye on that. When it comes to gun, I'm like, I don't want guns to be a way for everyone. Like, but just like unlike marijuana and stuff like that, where people are just going to hurt themselves more. Also, like
I always smell it.
Like on guns, like I feel like there should be more restrictions than I feel like there should be on other stuff. So that's where it's true because like I get his logic in it. I get his idea of like
this is an incredibly complex issue, and I'll tell you why.
Right, and we're not going to solve it on the mics.
It's not complex at all.
But just like I get Nelson's logic on it, and I understand that middle ground of like.
Yeah,
I that makes sense. But at the same time, my wife works in a school. I spend most of my time in schools. Like, and just if we go Nelson's route. I don't want to get into all this, but if we go Nelson's route, schools are going to have armed guards, and we're going to be living in what we would call a third world country where people are walking down the streets with
sure
guns.
Would be a shame
with guns
if we
in
had
their hands.
armed protection at schools.
Anyway, so just that's whole other episode. Go back to that. But like,
it is. But
just
you guys are both you're
idiots.
Well, no, you're both. That's why we there's so much nuance. I hate using the word nuance and dialogue and stuff, but it is really true. Like I just watched Jeff, to counter your point about drugs. I just watched a really awesome documentary.
Don't ruin drugs for me, man.
I'm going to. So there's a YouTube channel. If you want, I got another plug for you.
Great.
Okay, so Channel 5 News.
Oh, I love.
Yeah, he did the one on Philadelphia, and he talks about Kensington.
Yeah,
and,
I watched it. It was wild.
It's crazy, and he gets really deep on that. And it's like, you know what, drug use? Yeah, sure, it's just affecting the people who are using it, right? It's like, no, this is a much larger. True, it's not a conspiracy theory. It is an actual conspiracy that there are real estate moguls and city officials who are consistently and intentionally allowing people who have no means of getting out of that life. They're intentionally pushing them into it in order to drive property value down so they can come in and buy it and throw in a yoga studio and a creamery and a coffee shop.
Smoothie shop?
Smoothie shop. Heck yeah, dude. I think, and that's why I'm all for it. No, that's why I'm not for it, because it does at face value. It's like, well, as long as they're only hurting themselves.
But it is bigger.
Realistically, it's part of it's the economy of humans. It's literally a form of human trafficking. So it's the same with guns. It's super complex. Yeah. I also don't like the idea of an armed guard in every school. But I just for the it's like what kind of dystopian future do we want? But
I'm glad that like the school my wife and I work at, like there is a sheriff on hand at all times, and I was like, I am grateful for that, knowing the reality we live in. Yeah. But at the same time, like there was a season. It was right after the shooting in Nashville. There was a season where there was a conversation going about teachers being eligible to carry on staff, and I looked at my wife. I was like, there are some teachers at church. I'm okay with someone carrying at church. That's good with it. And listen,
I'm glad because I do every Sunday.
No, listen, but the staff, like people know about it, right? Yeah. Like people know that you're one that we can lean into in a case of emergency. Not everyone should carry at church or at school.
I've got ninja stars in my pockets at church.
But my wife, my wife got this impression. They're like, well, now besides just educating now teachers are required to become like safety officers too. Like that's a lot of responsibility. And it's an emotion. it's a stressful situation. Like again, I know it brings safety, but at the same time, it's like that shouldn't be a responsibility of someone who went to school for educating people. Now they have to learn how to gunfight and barricade and protect from bad guys. Like that's not what you should like. That's just that's where I struggle with.
I don't
like,
disagree. It's just we don't have a solution. So
right, and I don't think either one is a solution. Like I don't think regulating is going to solve it. I don't think removing all guns is going to solve it.
Pretty quantifiably.
You and I haven't. Other people have.
We as a society have proven that regulation is not sufficient to end gun violence.
Right. But at the same time, I don't think giving everyone a McNuke is going to solve it either.
Well,
I don't think we should give it to everybody, just everybody that wants one.
So,
well, yeah.
And with all the insurance and responsibility that comes with that, because
yes, Nelson?
If I drive a vehicle recklessly and it kills people, who's responsible?
You. Okay.
And yet, we have people on the road who drive with far less regard than the average person knows how to handle a gun. Yeah. And we license them to do
Agreeable.
it.
Yeah.
We license them to do it. And we trust.
It's Ford's fault.
When I'm driving on the road, I trust basically that everybody else is also going to drive reasonably, but I pay attention just in case somebody loses control. But if something happens, they're still liable. The person that's behind the wheel is still liable. This logic applies consistently across drugs, across weapons, across all that. Now, as far as the very real conspiracy to allow the mentally unstable to live on the street and chronically use drugs, this is this has been a long time, well documented thing. It's not new.
Like over decades?
Over decades.
Okay, interesting. I need to watch this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm intrigued by this.
Every decade has its own drug. Right now,
ours is fentanyl right now.
Well, in Philadelphia, it's tranq. It's a horse trank.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fentanyl is in like the West Coast, but all over.
Holy cow.
Heroin,
but this
cocaine.
has been a long time thing. Like, for example, in Canada, they shut down all their mental asylums because it just didn't feel right to corral the mentally unstable into institutions. So what did they do instead? They just let them loose out on the street, right? Because what else are you going to do? Right, so then they went from having like 9 a week of mentally unstable people being arrested by police to hundreds. Right, so and then as you were talking about with the Channel 5 News, which is not really news, it's gonzo journalism. It's great.
It's amazing.
So is it like it's comical?
It's kind of like
it's advice.
It's almost like a parody of itself.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like a,
but it is factual.
Yeah,
okay.
It's not staged and stuff. It's more like man on the street interview type stuff. Anyway.
Okay.
As you were talking about, you got councilmen involved, you got police involved, right? This now becomes an issue of, because the state has the monopoly to make these decisions. That's why these decisions are even able to be made. You decentralize it, and it changes the math on these a lot. And then just the drug thing alone, right? Alcohol used to be incredibly unsafe to drink during the Prohibition, and then when they legalized it, these people no longer had to ship very high proof alcohol to be more efficient with their distribution. And so, getting a 3% alcohol beer became suddenly viable. I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that we would see similar things with street drugs, because we've seen that in other countries when they've done it. They've legalized heroin in Portugal. And what happened? The rates of heroin overdose basically disappeared overnight, right? Do they still happen? Yeah, still tragic when it happens. But I don't think it's unreasonable that we'd have in the future, just like you have your Bud Light, you'd have a Bud Light of methamphetamine. Like people are just like, I'm just going to take just a little bit.
That is their next release, though. So.
Meth Light.
Bud Light meth, yeah.
Bud Light meth. Yeah. So
it started with the trans commercials, and then it just went downhill.
So
they leaned into it.
Yeah.
I agree that it's not as simple as just legalizing it. It's not that simple. There's all kinds of infrastructure and perverse incentive that has built this whole thing to begin with. Yeah. I agree that it's not as simple as just pull back all gun regulation. It's not that simple.
Right.
I'm not that naive, but I do know that when you take out all of the perverse incentives that the state has introduced through regulation, that the scales balance in the proper way. And I think that a lot of people would be surprised when they look at case studies in other countries and stuff, how this has worked, how much it regulates society. It self-regulates. So,
I described it. Here's an interesting fact. Probably the best way I've ever summed up, especially the gun argument. My dentist, of all people.
Your dentist?
My dentist. He's an African-American fellow, most soft-spoken and gentle and sweet man I've ever met in my life.
This is what you want for someone inside your mouth.
Well, you're right, because
African-American?
He knows how much I hate going to the dentist and have lots of issues in my mouth, and so he makes it great for me. And he threw out on Facebook one time, he said, "This is not me trying to spark a political argument. I genuinely want to know, what is the point of an AR-15? He said, this is literally me being ignorant and not knowing and not caring, but what is the point? You got the right-wingers to jump in there and it's like, oh, it's a hunting gun and everyone should have the right.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, it is. It's not a hunting gun. Whatever you say, it's not. It is absolutely not. It is a killing machine.
Yeah.
Now, It doesn't disqualify
No.
ownership of it, but that's. And
It's
then you
not
got
meant for
the liberals
recreation.
are saying, "Oh, it stands for assault rifle. It's an assault weapon."
That's also not right.
also not true. And I said, "This is probably the most profound thing I've ever said in my life." So
Well, that's all the time we have.
I said,
Don't you dare trump us.
And he had just recovered, or he just beat prostate cancer. And I said, the best way I can describe an AR-15 is it is cancer. And you went through cancer, and you know that the only thing that can beat cancer is chemo. And chemo is one of the worst treatments we can perform on someone. They never fully recover.
No.
It wrecks their body. It wrecks their soul. It breaks their spirit. It is nasty. The alternative is nasty, then death.
Right.
So the only thing that can fix, an AR-15 in the hands of a bad person is an AR-15 in the hands of a good person. And it's up to you to define good and bad. That's the hard part. That's the part we'll never figure out. It's like, someone walking into a school in Nashville with an AR-15, sure, that's an assault rifle. But me or the local, response team.
Can you define assault rifle?
You can't actually, because it's not a real thing. It's an Armalite.
Thank you.
Well, I'd say any, and to counter that, any rifle that you're using to assault someone
Is an assault.
is an
Becomes
assault
assault
rifle.
rifle. Yeah,
assault
yeah,
weapon.
yeah.
A knife that you're assaulting someone with is an assault knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's silly, but I don't even like the semantics argument. 'Cause it's like, who cares? It either kills people or it kills animals, or
I care because the semantics is used to weaponize people's emotions.
no, you're not wrong. I mean, it's an assault rifle. It's like, yeah, it is.
It can be.
It can be.
It has the potential to be an assault rifle.
It could be used to assault. These are assault fists.
But that's not the label that was given when it was created.
Nelson's holding it for the listeners. Nelson's got his fist balled up,
Yeah.
and he's making a very, I'd call it satire. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we've got a long way to go still.
No.
So
Let's sensitive thing. Abortion. Let's go.
Let's
Gay
move,
rights.
Let's move a little bit further here. We have one more interview
I'm gonna
question
seize that.
for you before we even get into the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We do.
What's your favorite movie, Tim?
You know what?
How would you describe yourself when it comes to the big screen?
When Nelson asked me to come on this podcast, which I said,
No, repeatedly, and I kept asking.
yeah, I said, it's just really hard to find a time. And like, how am I going to get there? This studio is like across the yard from my back porch. What was the first one I wanted to do? But you said, I think Forrest Gump was like top 3.
Yeah.
And you said, we've already got someone for that.
We have plans for
We
that.
have
Yeah,
that's-
you had some kind of plans.
We have
for it.
goals.
And then we talked a little bit more about it a few times in the one we're doing today, LA Confidential.
Le Confidential.
Wait.
Is
because it. Oh, okay. It is
Makes more
LA.
sense.
I thought Paris seemed a little bit like Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was like, man, they're speaking English really well.
Except for that one guy who's kind of got an Irish accent, but he's not Irish.
No, he's from Babe Pig in the City. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah. No, this is definitely top 3. Like Forrest Gump, LA Confidential.
And you said
It's a
top 3.
Wonderful
You
Life.
have
Yeah, you can't not.
All 3 of those are in the top 250.
That will make me cry 100% of the time. It's just the perfect. I don't know, for that era, I say that is like the movie for sure, and it does make me cry every time.
Are you an avid movie watcher?
I used to be, and then we talked a little bit about how the sausage is made, and it's really hard for me to disconnect from like how did they do this, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
And like how did they get the shot, and like I wonder how many people it took to get the camera movement, also operate the camera, also pull focus, also like how did the audio guy capture this?
And that's not.
And it's not very fun to watch anymore.
And that's not
There's
far
a lot
off from a
of
lot
times
of actors and
where-
actresses. They don't watch their own stuff.
Yeah,
like
a lot
a
of
lot of them don't even watch film in general. Like so, yeah, that's not far off from like if you're in it, you're probably not going home at night and also staying in it.
Usually,
Like,
when a really good actor or actress is interviewed and they say like, what are your inspirations? They usually cite like a bygone era.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Cary Grant. And they're like, dude, that was a long time ago. Like, yeah, but that's
what
I don't
got
get
me into
inspired
it.
from like Leonardo DiCaprio. I worked with him. He's okay. He's nice.
right.
He's a good actor.
He's a coworker.
Yeah.
It's weird to be inspired by the people you work with.
Yeah.
They'll say that they are, but like, no, it's weird.
I'm inspired daily by my coworker.
You work by yourself.
I do.
That's why there's a big mirror in here.
When you commented on the audio, how they capture the audio stuff, it does like take me out of a movie when I can tell that what I'm hearing right now was not said by the guy speaking. It was recorded and added back in post.
Yeah,
There's at least one of those in this movie, and it just takes me right out
Bad
of it.
dubbing is one of the worst. I just watched a pretty good Netflix. I mean, if we're going down that trail, Netflix and all the entertainment industry as of late, the streaming services have really cheapened all forms of entertainment. But occasionally I'll find like something good on Netflix that I like.
There's some stuff that's high quality that's being put out now.
I kind of like sci-fi. I'm getting a little tired of the whole parallel universe thing that's been going on for.
Yeah, the multiverse stuff is annoying.
It's getting old.
It's getting
because
old.
it's a great cop out for a writer.
It
How
really
did this
is.
happen? Oh, there's a multiverse.
Yeah.
It was the other version of me. They somehow opened the portal.
I didn't realize I had those feelings. Nelson and I are going through Invincible right now, which I'm really enjoying. So this is not me putting
My all-time favorite comic
shame,
series
but like,
of all time.
But like
ever.
the beginning of season 2 starts out with a multiverse story, and I told Nelson, I was like, Nelson, I don't want another multiverse story. It's like I love these characters, but like if this is what they're leaning into, I'm not here for it. Like, but granted, they're actually not leaning into it as heavy as I thought they were. In the first episode, it was heavy.
I was like, please, trust me.
It backed off.
I know where this is going.
It's still a
So
multiverse
good.
story. It's still a multiverse story.
love that.
And I think it is a little cheaper than some other type of stuff. But in general, I am still enjoying. But yeah, I agree with you. Multiverse is just getting old.
Oh, yeah. And everything's just been cheapened up.
Yeah.
Like it was, with the Mandalorian, like the whole projected greens, like
getting
rid of the green screen and having a projected
Volume.
environment.
The volume. Yeah, it's the volume. Yeah.
Yeah, I it's a cool
Marvel used
novelty
it,
thing,
so-
and now it's like, man, there's no even talent anymore. There's no set designers. It's just
It's
And
one.
actually, speaking of Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal is not on set almost ever.
Right.
It's a stunt double.
He's just
in
doing
a
the
helmet
dialogue.
and he does the dialogue.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just
And Grogu is a puppet.
and maybe.
No.
Yeah, he is. He is.
And
I saw
maybe
that.
if I was, if I was an accountant or a lawyer or something, I'd be able to watch that and say, like, this is great entertainment. Like, it's
Suck it,
interesting.
accountants.
But yeah, yeah. I don't mind listens to this. Hey, Jason, suck it. You're boring. Your life sucks. All you do is look at
Hey,
numbers.
easy.
all day.
This is
You're
going to be
entertained by
we are now in tax.
Mandalorian.
We're in tax season, so we got to be careful.
Yeah. No, he's a great accountant and he's a super nice guy. And he gives me free advice. He'll say, call me. We'll talk through it. It's good. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't even remember what the original question was.
Do you watch?
Do I watch movies?
Films?
I actually have been getting back into it. It's just a struggle because I turn on one of the 4 streaming services we have,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, anything with the red N in the corner on Netflix, I pretty much write off. I'm like, this is all part of the cash grab. Spit out as much cheap. The writing sucks. Like the execution is all the same. I even realized last night that I watched a couple of like very cerebral sci-fi series. I watched Midnight Mass, which I really thought was good, and then I watched 1899.
Oh, the Yellowstone spinoff, right?
Nope.
Oh,
18. It's kind of like it was interesting. I thought it was pretty good. And then at the end, it was like, here's the major twist. It was all just a cerebral, like it was in the person's head. It was like a series of dreams. And I'm like, oh, cool. So you just mashed up Inception with, some kind of multiverse thing. And it's in the future. It was just, I was very disappointed. So I started another one that's very similar. And I realized that even the actors are the same. They literally, it's almost like, this is my conspiracy theory. It's almost like they took the storyline from whatever original kind of sci-fi, kind of dark sci-fi series that was written, and they're just putting it into like AI and saying, write this, but in this environment.
this setting. Now, biblically, and I do think a lot of people will be like, well, that verse doesn't pertain to entertainment. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. No. Like, it doesn't surprise me. Again, I'm not a fan of rotating or same storylines coming back. Even same universes. Well, I mean, look at Star Wars. The sequel trilogy, the first movie was essentially the same story over again. It's like, like, it's just, there is nothing new under the sun. Like, and I think that falls right into that category of like, people are just trying to reuse what worked once before and clean it up.
Yeah.
And it gets annoying. I agree.
And, so now I try to focus. I try to, shut off my brain and say, don't worry about how they got the shot. Just try to immerse yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I focus on how it makes me feel. So, like the last 2 series I really liked on Netflix, it made me think, real horny. It's uncontrollable.
I have to cut that too.
You know,
I will.
these last couple series made me value life, and even if it was like not from a religious perspective, but just like, I like this person, and I should text them right now and just be like, hey, I value you.
Looking forward to that text.
Yeah, well,
I haven't got that.
Oh, that was no. When I saw that, I was like, Nelson.
Specifically.
Yeah. No, I think about and like, if you can put it through the filter of your own biases, even though it like these are
Shout out to Summer Screen Biases.
there you go.
Sponsor of the show.
Yep. No. Yeah. If you do filter it through your own biases, you're like, this can still be biblical. It can still pertain to my faith, and I think there's elements that I can pull out, and So,
all right, awesome. Well, let's get into some facts about this movie, and we have plenty more to talk about.
facts only.
Facts only.
You can use that soundbite from now on.
L.A. Confidential. 1997. This is our third movie in a row that Nelson and I have done. 1 for off 250, 2 for non-250.
Non-250.
On
There were
250.
so many numbers that just happened. I have no idea what you actually
It's
said.
the third movie we've done in a row that's from 1997.
Yeah.
So,
Did you guys do Titanic?
No.
Children of Heaven,
And that's not on the top 250.
which was made
Good.
in Iran.
Because I have a beef with Titanic. We'll get
And
there.
I ran.
Wag the Dog.
Wag the dog.
Wag the Dog is the other one.
Remind me of my beef with Titanic once you get to
Okay.
this.
This movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Directed by Curtis
I think I know what your
Hanson.
beef is.
We have not seen this director yet before. And to my knowledge, he's not, the 2 movies I'm about to share are not on the top 250. I don't know if he's got anything that's on the top 250, but he did 8 Mile. He directed 8 Mile, and he also
he did A Mile. I'm like, I run a mile every Friday. That's not that impressive.
And then he also directed the movie The River Wild with Kevin Bacon. So like those are two movies I haven't seen either one of those, but I'm familiar with both of them. And it's like so that's the director of this movie. This movie's rated R. In 1996, Fargo came out. We've done that movie already. In 1997 as well, Princess Mononoke and Children of Heaven came out the same year. And then in 1998, Saving Private Ryan. So those are some movies that we've reviewed that have come out around this time. Nelson,
Yes, sir.
got a question for you. Has this movie ever can it be based on a piece of literature?
Yeah, so I have a lot on this actually. So James Ellroy's 1990 novel,
from the
same
Jetson.
name, was the third in his L.A. Quartet series, which was The Black Dahlia, The Big Nowhere, L.A. Confidential, and White Jazz.
Wait, hold okay, pause you there. The Black Dahlia is in the same universe as this when it comes to the literature?
So the Black Dahlia novel, okay, is about the Black Dahlia,
Right.
which was this famous Hollywood murder.
Yeah.
All of his from his LA Quartet series, all of them like are loosely based on an actual event that actually happened.
Oh, okay.
So in LA Confidential, the name comes from a magazine at the time that was called The Confidential, released in LA, which is Hush Hush in the book and in the movie.
Yeah.
And then the crime that actually happened that kind of inspires it is the Bloody Christmas. So that the cops beating up the Hispanics at the beginning of the movie, that actually happened, and it was frustrating to me when I was reading it because
This movie took place in New York, right?
No, LA.
Makes
The
sense.
internal inquiry by Los Angeles Chief of Police William H. Parker resulted in 8 police officers being indicted for the assaults, 54 being transferred, and 39 suspended.
Oof. Was that real life event connected to a organized crime boss?
No.
Okay. So this movie takes it much deeper.
The Bloody Christmas was like all that was specifically based off true stuff, but then
Gotcha.
the rest of it is based off of things that the author had found in Confidential magazine.
Okay.
Which
That's fascinating.
It's inspired by a lot of that, and then LA Quartet was those 4, and then it's also connected to the Underworld USA trilogy, and currently Elroy is 2 novels in on the second LA Quartet series, so he's a really prolific crime noir author, and I'm going to start checking out some of his books.
Yeah.
They look really good.
And some of the research I did after watching this, according to Wikipedia, in October 2020, Brian Heigland confirmed a sequel to this movie had been in development before the death of Chadwick Boseman.
That's right.
Who was going to be playing a young cop named James Muncie. Crowe and Pierce were said to reprise their roles, and the film was going to be placed in the 70s. So there was a sequel. So was that? It didn't mention any of the book titles you were announced, but was this film going to be based on another book?
No, from what I can tell, because I was looking at that earlier as well, that the sequel was not going to be based off of any of Elroy's books, but a lot of Elroy's books have been adapted into films.
Oh,
so
because okay.
I hope if that does happen, they don't ruin it because
And Chadwick Boseman, he would have been a great. Like he's great.
Whatever happened to him?
he's dead. Anyway,
Speaking
I
of cancer.
get really tired of the reboots and 30-year later sequels. It's like they're all shot the same way. They all look the same. Like the color palette, like they have to nail it, and otherwise it'll turn me off in the first scene.
I genuinely agree, which is why I didn't watch Ghostbusters
Nelson is-
Afterlife until just recently.
Nelson is wagging his finger at Tim right now.
Ghostbusters
If that's too
Afterlife.
close, I'm going to bite it.
Ghostbusters Afterlife is
Suck
the
it.
most successful, 30 years later, reviving a franchise
It's
that
so
I've ever
good.
seen.
It's so good.
They really, I was impressed. They really knocked it out of the park.
I agree. Afterlife's great, and the new one comes out in March or April. The sequel to
Sometime
the sequel
soon.
to the sequel. So any more on that, Nels?
Nels?
Nels.
That is weird.
No, that's it. That's all I had for you.
Son to
There's
me.
a lot of cast in this movie.
Big cast guy.
A couple that we've seen before already, and a couple that we haven't yet. Kevin Spacey, who we talked about previously. He was in Hot Water. Didn't we talk about
who
how
else is in
he's?
Hot Water?
Hold on.
Never seen Hot
Didn't we
Water.
talk about he got redacted or whatever,
Regurgitated.
he got exonerated?
I
Is
don't
that
know
true?
if he was exonerated
Exhumed?
or what. I think, but basically,
He's
what I understand,
uncanceled.
I don't think he's been uncanceled. I think basically the court of public opinion is still no, you did those things.
Okay.
But I think
like an
that
Epstein
they were
situation.
overturned. So I think he's been found
Innocent.
or not necessarily innocent, but not guilty, which is different.
Okay. Correct. Okay.
But that's what my understanding
So
of
he
it is.
made someone to.
There's a good
just
chance.
Leave it alone.
Possibly.
Almost.
Outside of his real world actions, I think Kevin Spacey is a great actor.
Yeah, I do.
I enjoy.
he's a phenomenal
I love
actor.
watching him on screen, and it is a bummer watching a film with that in the back of your mind, going like, "You're probably a scumbag," which is most people in Hollywood. But anyways, so Russell Crowe.
For me, it was only a single scene. Once I got through the first scene with him, I was like, okay, I can do this now.
Yeah, Russell Crowe's in this movie, which we've seen from The Gladiator.
I love Russell Crowe.
Yeah, he's great.
I don't
This
care.
was his breakout movie. Him
makes
and
sense.
Guy Pearce both.
Yeah.
They were under. They were
I'm getting to
unknown.
Guy Pearce.
Which guy? Which guy are you getting pierced?
Guy Pearce. Okay, that fellow is handsome. In 1997, I told and I couldn't a young Guy Pearce I couldn't place because he's in the third Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
He's in some other stuff that I've seen. But in the I don't think I've ever seen him in the 90s before. And I'm watching this guy you look familiar. And I was like, man, I can't place you. And then he's like, he's the dude from Iron Man. I was like, oh, that's it. And then I was like, man, he's dreamy. He's in 1997. Guy Pearce was a handsome fellow. I just want to say that.
So was Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe has always been. He's a little pudgy now, but also he has the accent, which makes me,
Yeah, but I was not expecting I was invested in Guy Pearce's character just because man, you look like I just want to hug you. Anyways. Next up, James Cromwell. Nelson, we have it. We have our first crossover with Babe.
Yes.
Oh, man.
We have our first official crossover with Babe. We've made it.
Early on, I was like, wow, this guy is not doing a very good job of covering up his Irish accent. It's peeking through. And then I looked up, he was born in LA, he's an American.
Oh, he's not even Irish.
Yeah, and so what he's actually doing is an incredibly subtle Irish accent really well.
Well, and that would make sense because the cops of this era were largely Irish.
Yeah.
So why is that? I've always wondered.
Let me tell you, Tim.
There's no way he has.
In
There's
19
no way.
In 1913,
that's already
a
wrong.
year the Titanic drowned.
Good.
Because it choked on an iceberg.
He was in 1913. I assumed you were going to pivot to Federal Reserve. No, Titanic.
No, the Titanic was 1912. April. Anyways.
Interestingly, a bunch of the most famous critics of the Federal Reserve died on the Titanic.
Good.
Sure, it's unrelated.
Yeah, they placed the iceberg there for. Anyways, it's probably never mind. I love you. Kim Basinger, who is also, I believe, in 8 Mile. So, working with the director again. Danny DeVito.
Yeah. You can't not love Danny DeVito.
I have a hard, this is a serious movie. This is a serious movie. This is an action. This is a drama. This is not a comedy. This isn't even a Coen.
Funny.
This isn't even a Coen Brothers comedy. Where it's dark and edgy. With him, I can't help with him on screen not smile.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
he's terrific.
Danny DeVito.
He's
love
funny
Danny
in his
DeVito.
own way, and
So
part of
charming.
it is just his little stubbiness.
Yeah.
Have you?
But he was so good in this role.
What's the show that he was in? The TV show that was.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
No, the old one. It was breakout one. He ran a taxi company, or they managed a taxi distribution.
Yeah.
Was it Laverne and Shirley?
No. Was this called Taxi?
I'll look it up.
Taxi.
Yeah, I don't know. You're talking about Andy Kaufman?
Yeah, Andy Kaufman's in it.
Yeah.
He has the
I don't
weird
remember.
foreign guy.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
Even on that, where he's this
Wait, is Man
unlikable
on the
grouch.
Moon in the top 250?
I don't think so.
Okay, because that's very, as far as maybe not the movie and the story itself, but what Jim Carrey did to make that movie is
for Andy.
Method acting is so dumb.
No, Andy Warhol. Who was the actor?
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman.
Jim Carrey. played
Andy Kaufman. Yeah, I said Andy
Totally
Warhol.
unrelated to
but
this podcast. Continue, Jeff. You're researching something.
van-
When I say research, he's looking at Wikipedia.
The show is called Taxi.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay. I've never heard of it. So I've never.
What's the movie or the show where he's got a taxi?
even in that, where he's this surly, supposed to be unlikable guy.
Oh, Tony Danza's in it.
Help but
Andy
love him.
Kaufman's in it. Okay, Christopher Lloyd's in it. Okay. But yeah, so Danny DeVito, he's just pleasant on screen. The 2 movies he did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, are great. One where Arnold Schwarzenegger gets pregnant, and the other one where they're twins.
Yep.
Yeah, those are both great.
Classic 90s cinema.
And then
And they were
last,
both Batman villains as well. True.
yes, last but not least, of cast members I recognized, Paul Guilfoyle.
Yep. I know who he is.
I don't know that name,
much
but I'm
about
sure I
him.
recognize him to see him.
Did you guys grow up watching the CSI TV show?
Oh yes.
CSI Las Vegas.
Yep, that makes sense.
He
does kind of have. He's pigeonholed as a police officer.
Yeah.
for sure.
At first, I thought he was the guy from SVU, the old guy from SVU that was also in the Flintstones. But no, it was the guy from CSI. So
There was one actor in this that really stuck out to me.
who's that?
So Pierce Patchett is the character. He's the guy that was pimping out ladies.
Yes.
Okay.
David
Strathairn.
The hero of the movie.
He's the main character of the movie.
human trafficker. It's perfect. That's what we want.
With
That's one of my
consent.
biases, Tim. Okay, so don't judge.
I don't know. You're into privatizing things. Maybe
And then, what I know him from is not even if you go to his IMDb, it's not in the top 4 things you're likely to know him from. What I know him from is he was a Professor Xavier type character in a show called Alphas. So Alphas was modern day people are developing special abilities in the next phase of evolution, but it's really minor things. One guy just has more adrenaline than the average human. So if he needs to, he could push a car, right? Sideways. And then there's this other lady, she has synesthesia, so she can smell sounds and things like that.
Did you say Little Caesars? What
Yes.
She's-
$5
She's got a Little Caesar.
large pizza, hot and ready.
Synesthesia.
Pizza.
Synesthesia.
They're not.
And
not
anyway,
sponsoring this.
he was like the professor that was like tracking these people
Okay.
down and trying to study them.
A movie or series?
TV series called Alphas. It was super cool. I think it only got a single season. Like one of the guys.
That's how cool it
Yeah, it
was.
was so good.
well, it was
so
on-
good. They
so
didn't
good.
pick it back up.
It was on Sci-Fi. That
Oh.
channel, like
Oh,
almost
okay.
nothing's gonna last on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sick burns.
And then there's this one guy that like could see the internet, but I think it's just that he had autism.
I can also see
He
that.
was
I'm
actually-
looking at the internet
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
just-
He's
Open it.
autistic, but he could
Crack
like
open a
he
computer.
could just like watch YouTube without the screen.
This movie is 8.2 out of 10 on the IMDb.
Which IMDb is dumb because that should be at least
Easy,
9.
easy. That's why we exist. That's why we.
They're our official
Don't
sponsor.
upset the
It's
club.
not true.
No, yeah. The way we've discussed it before, the way that some of these movies, the way the rating works is a little bit pigeonholed. We go into further detail in other episodes, but
I've never
like
seen a pigeonhole.
it's
A cloaca.
oh God. But yeah, so they do
That's where my mole is.
they do filter it quite a bit. So yeah, so like we talked recently about how like there's not a lot of international films on here,
Yeah.
and the ones that are on here are like for them to be on this list
They have
as
to
an
fight and
international
scrap
film
to get there.
right? So actually, just recently we talked about it with Children of Heaven.
That's right.
So yeah, so there is some filtering that IMDb does, but in general, it does come from the voice of the voters, but those voters have to have some weight to their vote. So, anyways,
The IMDb algorithm seems to weight towards North American audiences.
Yes.
This debuted at 17.
I didn't ask you that yet.
Okay.
Hey, when does it
Spoiler alert.
debut?
No, it's currently at 123 as of recording of this episode. Nelson, does this movie have a history on the IMDb Top 250?
Nope.
Oh,
It debuted at 17 in 1997.
That's
climbed to
awesome.
13 by August of 98. Has slowly fallen, except for a significant 50-point bump in February, March of 2022, which is when
LA became a state.
It looks like IMDb updated their algorithm to favor domestic audiences.
Gotcha.
As they should.
That's impressive. I wouldn't have put this movie in the
USA.
top 25 of the
USA.
top 250, but like for it to be
USA.
there, that's awesome.
We're number one.
Couple more facts. Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 99%.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's
We haven't seen many
about.
99s. That's pretty, and we've only seen one 100. And 94% with the audience. Nelson, did this movie have a budget?
Probably. Budget was $35 million in 1997, which would be $66.5 million today.
What did it do at the box office? Because it was pretty significant.
That's a great. We actually don't talk about box
I
office.
teed you up because I thought you'd have it. It was
No.
like,
No,
it was
we
like
usually don't- we
115 or 135.
And while
it,
you're
made, it made a lot of money.
While you're looking that
Providence,
up,
where you're
Nelson,
from.
even with today's numbers, that's a small budget for this film.
That's tiny.
66.5?
And with the cast on this,
Well, keep in mind,
sorry,
that Guy Pearce and,
trigger warning, Tim. I said cast.
Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe were both unknowns.
Right.
Box office was 126 million.
Oh, I split the difference
So you
with
can
my guesses.
basically double that again to get what it would be today. So
Yeah.
300.
It's pretty darn good for a low budget.
Yeah,
flick.
that's not a big budget at all. That's fascinating. Awesome. Well, the last little question I want to ask is, I'll go to Nelson first because Tim, you picked this movie, so we assume you have some background with this. Nelson, had you seen this movie before?
I had not.
Okay, this is your first time. This
Didn't
was
know anything about it.
This was also my first trip with this movie. What'd you think?
I really liked it. It makes me want to go back and replay LA Noire.
Oh, the video game.
Yeah.
I also like this movie. And we've talked about this before with some of the noir films that we've done. I use the quote fingers. I picked up immediately in this movie. Now, this wasn't your typical noir film. I feel like it's noir adjacent if you really get down to it.
Well, it's neo-noir.
Right.
So you're right.
But this movie had that narrating trumpet throughout the film, and I loved it. Yeah, because we watched a noir film that didn't have that type of music in it,
Yeah.
and this one had it. I was so excited when I heard that trumpet
I
play.
wish your audience could see
I
Jeff's
was-
face.
I-
It's ridiculous.
It was just so
Sweet
fun to
people.
have that really like noir style
animation on
music
his
in the
face.
back. It's great. I'm very animated.
No, and then there's like, even if there is or isn't the narration, there's that.
Right. And this movie starts out with a narrator.
The dame walked in. I was having a piece of pie and coffee. She
There was-
said, "Hey,
DeVito
boy,
was
what's
narrating
going
at the
on?"
beginning and stuff like. So yeah, it did have aspects of a noir, but it wasn't your typical stand under a lampshade
Yeah.
But it did open up with them watching someone from a car. Like so.
One
it's
trope
definitely-
I typically don't like in noirs, but I feel this movie handles incredibly well, is the male leads often have these pithy one-liners that usually actually suck and just stink.
Right.
And I just finished watching Big Trouble in Little China, which is just stinky one-liner after stinky one-liner, and it's hilarious in the way that they do it. But when it started, I was like, I don't want to do these, and it felt right, it felt real, it felt authentic. So I thought it was really well done there.
And Tim, we assume you have a history with this movie. Do you remember the first time you saw this?
First time?
Yeah,
This
I don't
morning.
know, it's been a couple of years, and then I watched it again when Netflix picked it up, and then I've seen it at least 3, maybe 4 times. But also, just like Nelson, So like L.A. Noire, the game was based on like this movie in this genre.
Yeah.
And like, I loved that game. I fell in love with like that sinister, like darkness.
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh man, it's just like the game. I love the game. And then
In fact, where they give the briefing, the case briefings, that room is in LA Noire, like a perfect replica.
I'm
Is
sure
that
if you
game
talk to
based on the book?
I'm not.
So it's based off of a handful of books.
Yeah,
Okay.
And this is one of them.
Because there is Black Dahlia is in the game.
Yep.
I need to play this game.
But
Very
it's
good.
it's awesome. It's kind of it's different because like there's you're trying to identify.
Bums me out that Rockstar hasn't done a sequel.
Yeah, you're trying to like you interrogate people and they lie and you have to tell them their lying. It's more than just like a first person shooter that's kind of mindless, boring, same old thing.
And you can like miss clues and then wrongly solve the case.
Yep.
It's great.
Yeah. But
You can
anyway,
badger witnesses, beat up
I
women.
can get it for the Switch, so I need to play this game.
yeah, you'll like
Okay.
it. It's a good one. Wouldn't play it with your daughter around probably.
Well, I watched the movie with her. What's the What are you trying to say, Tim? What, do you have an issue with how I parent?
You're doing fine. You're doing just fine.
She hated this movie, by the way.
Yes, I have.
Man, she
I have-
struggled with it.
I've seen it several times. I've also watched
Slept right through it.
watched several different interpretations, like different movie reviewers'
Yeah.
interpretations of it. So just kind of, and in fact, that's I like getting different perspectives because there's a lot of times that people get a perspective on plot or writing that I would just go right over my head.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Next question.
Yeah, well, that was it. All
right.
So, as we do with every episode, we just start throwing in some of the things that we watched in this film that we can take away as something that they were speaking to us as a viewer.
Oh,
So,
fancy.
so what are some of the things that you guys watched as
Well, here's the biggest one. You want me to just go
the
right?
biggest
The
one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, okay. No, I'm going to start with the smaller one. From a technical perspective.
All right.
I think that maybe this is probably because of my age for the viewer or listeners at home. I'm born
65?
in 1987. So I'm 36. So this, for me, the golden age of cinema is like the 90s. It literally is it. I'm thinking like,
And for TV.
yeah, really it is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Dennis the Menace. It was like my favorite kids movie of all time. Like Little Rascals.
Those are
like,
great
just,
movies.
just stuff like that. Hook.
Yes.
Amazing movie.
Dustin Hoffman.
Like great kids
fantastic.
movies. And what I think it is from a technical perspective, and maybe again, it could just be my age, and I'm sure people 20 years from now will look back on movies now and say, this is my favorite because of this. Because of green screen. Ugh. But I just think that this is where they kind of graduated from like the technology that was available. Nothing wrong with like the original film, like 50s and on. But this was like color film. I meant to look up what, camera ecosystem they shot it on. Probably Panavision. I don't know. It's film and it just looks
Pandavision.
Pandavision. It's just a bear eating eucalyptus leaves.
Oh, Jack Black. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's like there is definitely some artificial lighting, but a lot of it was done practically. Like stunts are done practically. Some of it is a little hokey. Like some of the special effects are a little hokey, but it was like not completely just out there stupid like the 80s, but also not like so fake and like over the top that it's like, man, I can't even deal with this. Or it's not even, and it's not a parody of itself. Like I watched the
You're
John
good,
Wick
Tim.
movies.
It was a Panavision.
Was it really? Yeah.
I didn't see a single pan.
Panavision, Panaflex Gold 2.
Yeah. What does it say? What kind of film it was shot on?
Movie film. Wait, so is that the ratio question? Or is that
No, there's like usually it's like
35
Kodak,
millimeter?
Fuji,
Anamorphic 35 millimeter?
That makes sense.
Animorphs.
Well, that's printed film. Camera aspect ratio,
Anamorphic is just
runtime,
it's shot
film length, negative format, Kodak Vision 500T.
There you go.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So it just has a certain look to it. And back then you didn't change the
This
color.
is before digital.
Yeah. So you would you'd select the film based on the environment. So like
Right.
your camera operator and AC and all those people had like this. I don't want to say the skill set was higher because that's like
They had to have more knowledge.
they did. They'd be like, okay, this light in this room is 3000K and
Right.
it's this darkness, so I need this. Like if I use the outdoor film, everything's gonna be really noisy. It's gonna rob from the story, so I need to use this film.
Yeah.
And it's just it just looks good. It holds up. When it was digitized, it looks good.
So then, given that, it's likely that films that change locations a lot are going to use a lot of different types of film.
I mean, most likely it'll be within the same, like that Kodak. Like
Same
there's-
brand?
Yeah, there's so many different looks within Kodak.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout.
Do you work with film a lot? Have you worked with
Zero
film?
film, all
okay.
digital. Yeah, all digital. Just because what do I do? It just makes sense.
That's one thing, like, to step aside. I don't know if you've seen Oppenheimer, Tim, but like,
Not yet.
Nelson and I went and saw it together, and it was probably my favorite film of the year.
My favorite date I went on this year. Sorry, Tim.
And, I'm gonna get emotional. Wow. But like
Cole was there.
Christopher Nolan's very, like, I would put him in that category of like being intentional about, because he filmed that on film.
Yeah.
Not just for IMAX, but he specific film
Yep.
for small screen, big screen, IMAX screen, digital. Like, and that's something that he's known for being intentional.
guys are going back to
and
that
he's,
for
and
sure.
it's like, and I don't know anything about that. Like, but I do know that's
it's
one
a
of his
look that
things
you
that he
can
does.
reproduce,
Yeah.
and it just never has like the depth
doesn't-
and the feel. And I think we talked about The Shining. It was one of the
Yeah.
movies that I what I thought we could do, but
We'd already done it.
It's already been done. And same way.
Turns out they'd already made that movie.
Turns out it's been done.
Twice, actually.
Yeah.
Hello, Johnny.
Anyway, to wrap that up, just from a technical perspective, it's just like, for me, it's the golden age of video production or film production. And I love the way it looks. I love the way, like, the sound design is good. Special effects are a little hokey, but yeah. Second thing, unless you guys have something to add to that. You probably don't because you're not technical.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, I have like a huge list, but I was like, I don't want to share this.
Yeah, don't. No one's interested.
Didn't want to embarrass me with it.
Man, I just lost my train of thought. The second thing I was going to say is something about.
You said that was the small one. You have a big one.
I have a big one, but there's one in between.
Okay.
My beef.
Goldilocks. Yeah, what's your beef?
Yeah, so I got a beef with Titanic.
Yes.
So the same year, right? So this was nominated for, I think it was 9 Academy Awards.
That sounds right. I was looking at that earlier today, and that feels right.
And everything that it did not win, Titanic won.
That's right.
And I watched Titanic later in life. Obviously I watched it as a 8th grader to see some boobies. And that's pretty much the only reason I watched it. And I feel like
DiCaprio takes his shirt off?
at least once. I feel like it's a rated R chick flick that's way too long. And it's just like,
that's the reason I don't like. We talked about this with Sheldon Stauffer, I believe. No, who did we talk about that? This was their favorite movie. Not Sheldon from the things we said.
It was when we did Star Wars. It was the middle one. The guy that wrote the book on how the Force can save the world.
Yeah. It's his favorite. Like, I like the movie outside of the storyline. Like, I thought the way it was shot was beautiful.
Yeah, it was revolutionary.
Like it was big. It was gorgeous. Like
a 94-year-old woman telling her daughter about the man that she met and slept with on a boat before she met her dad,
and then had a necklace about. Yeah.
No, it's the storyline itself. If you boil it down like that, is pretty soft.
Yeah.
I mean, I
there's
get
room
it.
for two on that door.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's,
for
it's
sure.
like the coming of age. Quite literally.
Now, I've never looked up movies that came out in specific years and stuff. Like, so you had LA Confidential, Titanic, and this is just a Google. I said movies that came out in 97. Another big one that I don't know what the awards on it would have been Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good Will Hunting came out in 97 as well.
Yeah. It's not your fault.
And
actually, of
those three, Good Will Hunting would be my favorite.
And Titanic's not on the top 250.
No, it's not.
No, Titanic wasn't. I mean, like you said, the way it was shot, like the epic, the grandeur of it was impressive.
James Cameron's wildly over.
And none of the Avatars are on the top 250 either.
Sorry, James, if you're listening.
None of the Avatars are on top 250 either.
That's
I'm not a James.
hot garbage.
Has it?
The first Avatar was.
It did.
Yeah.
But it's
Did
just
Titanic
Blast of
ever-
Mohegans in space.
Did Titanic ever make the 250?
That's the Mohegans in space.
It is.
Did Titanic
the
ever
plot, right?
breach 250?
I'll double check, but yes, I believe it has been and is not anymore.
So full disclosure about me, when there's something that's like super hyped, I will intentionally stay away. I'll give it a few years, then I'll watch it and I'll decide for myself, is this hype or is this awesome? Yeah. And generally speaking, and that's part of why I hate the whole Netflix kind of paradox that's happening right now, because people be like, "Oh, Squid Game's the best thing ever," and then you watch it like 2 years later.
I really liked it. Actually,
I don't. I think it's dumb. But
did you watch the game show that came out with?
No,
I
feel like they really missed the point.
Yeah, I'm really just.
So Titanic hit the top 250 in January 1998, and it actually got all the way up to 4th, and then fell off within a year.
Yeah, it's because it doesn't hold up. It was way too long.
Yeah. It fits on 2 VHS.
So it did.
It's the worst.
It had a higher peak than LA Confidential had.
Yeah.
But LA Confidential, the entire time it's been out, has been in the top 250. Titanic had a year.
So there you go. Your beef with the awards.
My beef with them is because LA
Confidential has longer.
But that's kind of my beef with the award, the Oscars in general.
Yeah.
Almost always the best film of the year. More and more later on. Earlier it was not so. Like earlier stuff still holds up, but like as it goes on, like it's very political. What's going to win?
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
What's your big bias that you saw?
My big thing. It's more of a big takeaway.
What's your big thing?
I watched a movie reviewer of this, and he's like, "It's all about honor and doing things with honor." I was like, "You're close," but I think there's a. I'm going to use a church term here. God writes straight with crooked lines, which means the perception is that.
I just got goosebumps.
Oh, well, you should. I thought you're
speaking this Sunday.
I thought you were going to say you just got conviction.
I just got a heart attack.
No. Yeah, I've been convicted in years.
So the whole point of that
can't catch me on anything.
Is that the outside perception of the Christian life is you know Jesus, you come to find him, and then it's a straight shot to heaven. In reality, there's highs, lows, lefts, rights, complete 180s, several 180s. There's deconstruction, reconstruction. There's all these different parts to it. And if you were to draw a diagram of your life and your faith journey, it would look like a jumbled up mess.
Yeah.
So taking that into this movie, you guys know the diagram that, like, hold on, I'll pull it up.
Oh, the Enneagram.
Nope. Not that. It's called the chart that explains everybody. So top left is lawful good.
Oh, yeah.
Bottom right, chaotic.
Yeah.
This is from Dungeons and Dragons.
It is from Dungeons and
actually.
Dragons.
Wait, is that where it got its start?
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So
That it
These
made
are
it into like
alignments.
that alignment said
alignment
starting
chart.
Dungeons and Dragons and
Yeah.
made it into like a psychological like.
Yep.
And now, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So starting with top left, I'm going to go left to right, and then the middle, left to right, then bottom left to right. So lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good. Lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral. Lawful evil, neutral evil, and then chaotic evil. So what I think this movie is doing, there's three protagonists. There is Ed.
Ed and Eddie.
There is Ed Exley,
Oh, man.
who's played by Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
He is initially the lawful good. We have Kevin Spacey, who's the chaotic good.
Yeah.
And we have Russell Crowe, who's more of the neutral good. So the and then of course
I'd say he's chaotic good.
and that's actually you're right, and that's where I'm going with this. Then you have James Cromwell, Dudley Smith, who is chaotic evil. He's there's no question on any moral compass. He's bad.
Yeah.
So the point of this movie is like you see, Ed's character go from lawful good. He won't do anything that involves a bribe.
And that there's even specific dialogue of like, will you do this? Will you do this? Will you do this?
Like,
That's why you're not detective.
Yeah, everything's by the book.
Yeah.
But to be made or to make it, you have to bend some rules. And he's this whole that particular protagonist, his storyline is realizing that it's not black and white.
Right.
And it's like, and I would argue, so I said I would argue it's not even gray. It's a series of lines that go up into good and then down into evil and back and forth. And their whole premise is you have to navigate that the right way to be made or to, accomplish the most. So all three of them have very different crooked lines going from good to
bad,
evil.
good, evil, good, evil.
But what is the greater good? And you have
For the greater good.
yeah, and you have Russell Crowe's character who's he's got very, very defined morality standards. When it comes to women, he is like hard line, don't hit a woman, treat a woman the right way.
Yeah.
Like that's what he is. But he's willing to like put a guy in a headlock to get an answer, break someone's arm.
Put him out the window.
Right. And then you have dang it, I forgot his name already. What's his name? The other cop. Jack. Kevin Spacey, who is fully blown lawful, but completely chaotic.
Yeah.
And so this actually, within Dungeons and Dragons community, there's been a long time reckoning with this chart.
Yeah.
Because how do you define good and evil? How do you define chaotic and lawful? And overall, the kind of generally accepted for this is good is selfless and lawful is selfish, which means that almost everybody ends up being closer to neutral.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle. And then lawful is I have a code. These are the things that I follow. And then chaotic is I don't have a code. But depending on what your code is, you look at Russell Crowe's character and he's an agent of chaos in a lot of sense, but he does have a code.
Yeah.
Just a much narrower code than a lot of people. So then again, everybody ends up falling to somewhere of some variety of true neutral.
Yeah. It's a bell-shaped curve, and you average somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not
I don't do well with the bell curves, man.
It's been an issue in the past.
Gosh. Now I'm triggered.
Oh.
He has to get the whiteboard out, and I gotta know where am I standing at this point? Like it's a whole thing. We don't have a whiteboard here
Just
now.
call
Like
it the average.
We got some white boys here.
we got some whiteboards.
I think that's really interesting. It's really hard to
that's gonna
it's hard to plot fictional characters or even true characters, real characters on the D&D alignment chart because of how ambiguously defined these things are.
Yeah.
And how subjective any given thing is, right? Because a case could be made that Russell Crowe is lawful good.
Yeah.
But like then you compare him to Guy Pearce's character and it's like, well, no, that guy's lawful good.
Yeah.
But then somebody else goes like, well, actually, he's very self-serving in that in the kind of trial at the beginning of the movie in front of his three bosses, and so it could be argued he's lawful evil of a sort. Like he's very self-motivated but following the rules, and so it all becomes murky. And
well, then his story develops, and you find out his dad was killed, and so it's actually very self-serving. He joined
by Pepe Sylvia.
Yeah. Nope.
Pepe Le Pew.
Something.
Sultan Pepe.
Sultan Pepe.
It's something like that. But it actually ends up being like a personal vendetta. It's that's why he joined, and then
against criminals that get away with crime.
Right. And that fictional name you just made up is actually
I didn't make that up.
Well,
Pepe Sylvia is from
okay, sure,
but it's from it's in Philadelphia.
Yeah. But that was actually it's ironic because that was the whole point. The name that he assigned the person was just a
placeholder.
Yeah, for
it was an idea.
Whoever. Yeah. It's whereas Russell Crowe is more of a here and now. It's not really like for him. It's a lot less of that like hero trope,
moral code.
Yeah, it's more just like.
I'm going to bust some heads and get justice.
And that was his job. He was the head buster. He's who they brought in to, slam tables and punch people and literally twist arms. And,
I still reject even that it's about honor and stuff. I think that this movie is about, is it permissible for our servants of the law to go outside the law to serve the law?
Yeah.
And my instinct on this is no, it's not. It's not acceptable, right? The questions that Guy Pearce answers no to: would you be willing to plant corroborative evidence on a suspect you knew to be guilty in order to ensure an indictment? If I ever heard, like, in my opinion, if a police officer says yes to that, then they are unfit to serve. Because how can you know that they are guilty? Yeah.
Right.
I would say in this era, like our current era, absolutely. Back in these days, it was a little different.
I don't think it was different.
I think there are enough.
I was 8 in '97. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
The LA crime scene.
How old were you in
needed this.
53?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's
So
right.
like even now, like they have,
Hold the
I just
seven.
think because of different like body cams, for example.
Yeah.
Like it's on, you pull the person over, he resists, you pull him out of the, you tell him, hey, get out of the car. They say no. Okay. What's the lawful order? I'm going to pull you out if you don't get out. I'm going to call my sergeant over. We're going to pull you out. Whereas back in these days, they didn't have body cams and there was no accountability. So I don't know. I don't disagree necessarily.
I think the less accountability there is, the more necessary it is to have men of character. The following question: would you be willing to beat a confession out of a suspect you knew to be guilty?
No, I don't think so.
That's
just not my personality, though.
But we also we as a society know and have proven conclusively through sociological study that torture is as likely to get false evidence as true evidence.
Wouldn't do it.
What?
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Would you be willing to shoot a hardened criminal in the back in order to offset the chance that some lawyer ... and he doesn't get to finish it? And that's the one where Guy Pearce shoots him in the back later.
Yeah, I actually just picked up because like hearing you repeat the words now, like it's the first time I'm hearing them again since watching the movie. He did all of those throughout the. That's so fascinating. Like I knew that's what it was alluding to, that he was overcoming
character development.
Right, but like I guess I didn't. He actually shot someone in the back. Like, That's great. Yeah. I think that's great storytelling.
But in my opinion, when I saw that, I was like, Guy Pearce is. So one thing that noir fiction does well is the ambiguity, right? Moral grays. And to me, like, I want my hero to be morally virtuous. And so I didn't like that he did. I was like, I want this guy to be better than the bad guy.
Well, even when it ends, like, he's like, they're using me for a while. I'm using them for a lot. Like, it's like, even when it ends, like, he's still got good intentions with what he's doing with his leadership position. But at the same time, like, he's there because of some interesting decisions. Like,
I do what the captain says as a response to him saying no to all these questions, which is then, for the love of God, don't become a detective. Stick to assignments where you don't have to make those choices. Now, I agree that if you're in a job that's going to require you to make difficult choices and you're not comfortable making difficult choices, that's not the job for you. But for me, like, I also don't want these choices to be choices that detectives feel that they're entitled to make. Like,
well, entitled or required to. Like, that's what you'd have to ask yourself is, if they didn't, if that line between morally right and morally wrong didn't swerve down into morally wrong every once in a while, would there be more active rapists, murderers, blah, 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 etc.? How far are you willing to move that line or move that goalpost to still support the greater good? And what we can all agree is the greater good. Like putting a
for the greater good
child molester away. How far would you move that? And I think that's what the movie is kind of playing with that the whole time. And
so where I draw the distinction is private versus public. So, for example, there's a case, and I can never remember the guy's name, but I consider him to be a hero. His son was raped, and they had the rapist. They were taking him to be tried, and they had to take him to an airport to move him to where the court case would be.
The guy shot him in the head.
The father waited by the phone booth, and when the guy walked by, the guy turns and shoots him in the head.
Well, it's like a snub nose 38. Let me just say, as a pistol instructor, like, and he's kind of shot from the hip.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like that's
It wasn't from the hip. It was like it was across the torso, right in the head.
It was not a aimed shot, but it was a well placed shot.
Yeah,
and so I think the Lord's hand was guiding him.
And so, on the one hand, I think that what that father did in that moment was heroic, right? End of story. Yeah. But if he was in a position of like a police officer or someone whose job it is to serve justice, then that would be a mistrial of justice. Yeah. Right? Like it is their job to make sure that this guy gets a fair case and that justice is served. So that's where I see that's I don't even consider it a moral gray. It's like that's it's your job to serve justice, then you got to serve justice.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable with that, then that's not the job for you.
Yeah, I don't really know until I've been put in that position, to be honest. I know it's a little bit of a cop out, but like if you're sitting across from me, was it? It wasn't really meant to be a pun.
It's a cop out.
A cop out.
So we're talking about cops.
Oh, it's a movie about police officers?
Yeah, in New York. Yeah, in New York. Cops in New York. Yeah.
If you're
sitting
Confidential. NY Confidential.
If you're sitting across from me and I know that you're a child molester and I can, and I'm like 99.9% sure, we have evidence that corroborates everything. I don't know how.
Stop looking at me, Tim.
You get that crazy look in your eye and your hair's doing that thing it does. You look awesome today.
He looks like the clown from Air Bud.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation. That's the hard part is I don't know how much my anger and my desire to just literally reach across and twist this guy's head off would overtake my, basic American and human rights of just saying, the system will take care of this. My job is to interview him and do it the right way because there are cameras on or there's not cameras. It doesn't really matter. So I don't know because I'm not in that position.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part. And it's,
Are you familiar with Blackstone's formula?
No.
It is better that 10 guilty men go free than that one innocent man be convicted.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't disagree with that. It's a paradox. It's not a paradox. It is a paradox, isn't it? Because what if those 10 guys are murderers and they go kill 10, or they all kill 100 innocent people collectively?
That's 1,000 people.
Yeah. Is it better that me, the innocent man, is behind bars, and those 10 guys are also behind bars? Like, would I knowingly sacrifice myself as the guilty but innocent man if I said these guys need to be in prison, and if it was one or the other, then put me in prison? Because they shouldn't be free because they're just going to rape and kill. And
it's heavy.
Well, yeah, it's like the train track. Would you switch? You ever seen that little diagram with like?
It's the trolley problem.
Yeah, but so I don't really know. That's
the
why
trolley green dry?
Yeah, that's it.
The green bean situation.
Yeah. That's tough. It's like any moral question. Like, lately the thing is the riots of the last couple of years with the Black Lives Matter movements and even the January 6th stuff. It's like, the argument that comes out as well, these people they're trying to steal a loaf of bread to feed their family. It's like, no, they're going into Gucci and stealing handbags. Those handbags are showing up 3 blocks over in a black market.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening here.
No, that's not Robin Hood at all.
But the original question
Speaking
remains,
of Russell Crowe,
would you steal a loaf of bread to fill your family's belly? And it's like, well, I don't know. How do you draw that hard line of law and lawlessness? And I don't know the answer, but it's kind of the same thing you're saying is, it's kind of like the Blackstone's law, what you just said.
Blackstone's formula.
Yeah, law, formula, same thing, theory.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to would you steal to feed your family? I think that Old Testament law gives us a really great framework for answering pretty much every single one of these questions.
Please don't use the circumcision law.
Yes, please do, actually.
I wasn't going to go there.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
I think it's interesting stuff. No, but I mean, so it says, theft is wrong. No exceptions.
Yeah.
It is allowable for a man to steal to feed his family. However, if he's caught stealing to feed his family, he's got to be paid 7 times as much as what he stole.
Just don't get caught.
That's basically that's basically the conclusion of it, right? Yeah. And so they're like, yeah, private property is important. You can't just go stealing stuff. If you have to feed your family, we understand, but know that if you get caught stealing to feed your family, which we consider to be allowable, you will still be held responsible. The punishment was not as severe as other types of theft, but you're still going to be significantly punished. And I think that's, I'm when I read through Old Testament law, I'm surprised at how robust it is and how it really addresses edge cases that I wouldn't have considered. Yeah. That we today are like, oh, here's an interesting moral conundrum. It's like, actually, they answered this 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. Many times on this show, we've talked about morality and making decisions based on emotions versus what is right and what is wrong and stuff so there wasn't a lot of new concepts in this film where I'm going, oh wow, I never there was a lot of things that we've hashed out already.
Yeah.
And I haven't except for this except for the one we just had, which I didn't even think of.
The circumcision part?
Yeah.
No.
But just I didn't have much from this film. Not because I didn't enjoy it or I wasn't invested in it. This movie wasn't broad. It was very specific in the story it was telling and very specific in the decisions the characters were making. And I don't have much on this film, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's but I did enjoy it. I didn't my notes were very basic as far as cop corruption, dishonesty. But if it the whole Robin Hood thing, which we just talked about, I had that.
Would you like me to bring it full circle?
I don't know if we're ready to end it yet.
I'm not saying end it, but I'm saying full circle. Remember in the beginning you asked me about faith, and I said,
yes,
I try not to subscribe to a Christian doctrine. I like to see myself as someone who follows Jesus and would do the things that he would do. So I think the very simple resolution to everything we just said, simple but incredibly complicated, is if Jesus was one of these 3 police officers, which one would he be, or be closest to? Are any of them even remotely close to exhibiting behavior that Jesus would follow? Would Jesus be the guy, he definitely wouldn't be Kevin Spacey, because that guy's kind of slimy from the get-go.
Yeah.
He's corrupt.
It's a role he does so well.
Yeah.
Years we were like, wow, he's so good at playing a slimy villain.
Yeah.
He's typecast.
You got, Ed, who's wants to be straight-laced, but he is selfish.
He's ambitious. He's got career ambitions.
Yeah.
Which corrupts ultimately him into not evil, but going to the chaotic side.
Right. And ending the movie with that ability to go like, I'm okay right now with this quid pro quo type of status.
I've come to my moral middle ground, and I'm okay here because it serves both masters. Or is it Russell Crowe's character who is a little rough and
more like Ruffle Crowe? Am I right?
You ruffle, yeah.
More like
I don't think
Mark Ruffle Crowe.
His name is.
I don't think Jeff even got it. I think he just felt like it was appropriate to laugh to make it feel like he did.
Good one, Tim.
Which is fine.
Like I've done that before.
We're laughing.
Yeah. But I think that, like, to go back to what we were talking about, if this was me and I was a cop and I was truly what I say I am, which is a Christ follower, what would, where would I land? That's the really hard part, is you don't know in that moment. Mm-hmm. You have, and I hate, again, I don't like to speak in,
Christianese.
Yeah, or again, cop out, but like I would, you really should approach it with prayer and meditation. And I just don't know if you have time to do that when you're on your feet as a police officer and you're expected to make decisions that are that quick. It's like, is it okay for me to literally twist this guy's arm till his shoulder pops, but knowing that he raped a child? Like, but I need to get this confession out of him. Like, literally in that moment, what would Jesus be okay with? What's the right thing? And you can't say that he would use his Jedi mind tricks to just make it, make it so. So I don't really know the answer either, but I'm also not Jesus. So
one thing that sociological studies seem to indicate is that deciding ahead of time how you will react in these moments of tension goes a very long way to ensuring that you do what you want to do in those moments.
It is not foolproof, but like how.
It's not perfect.
But there is studies that show like because you and I have talked before. I haven't thought about this until like you and I have talked before about like. What if I was around or near a school shooting, or I saw someone that like okay, so like if I was a concealed carry, like if I had a gun, like what would I like? I've never thought about that before. Like, but you're saying like there has been studies done like that premeditating of like putting yourself in situations ahead of time that does help.
So
that's interesting. It's interesting. I've never thought of that.
So you were talking about if you're a Christian police officer and you have in those moments, well, the thing is you shouldn't be waiting until you're in the moment. If you're a Christian police officer, you know that you're going to be put in situations that are very morally complicated. You need to decide now, what am I going to do? What's going to honor God to do in that moment? If that is your most important thing. And if it's not, you need to stop and ask yourself, why is it not my most important thing?
So interestingly enough, this all ties into all my odd and, kind of strange career choices that are all mushed together. Also,
you're going to talk about CrossFit now?
Well, no, I do CrossFit to like keep my
get swole
in decent shape, but it's actually a mental thing. Yeah. It's like, it's hard.
No, CrossFit's definitely physical, Tim. Like I've done it and like it's...
The reason I do it
is basically the same as me reading a book.
It's mental.
Yeah. I worked out today.
I work. So the CCW classes, like I do a lot of the technical stuff. Like here's how to break down your firearm, clean it. Here's the basic rules of safety.
Here's how to saw the end of a rifle.
Yeah. Here's how to print ghost guns. Yeah. All that good stuff. This is definitely getting flagged. There's no way Spotify is going to allow this. But
we have not been flagged yet before, so this will be exciting.
That we're aware of.
Yeah. We've been shadow banned. But I'll go through all that stuff, and then I have my business partner, Jared, who's an actual police officer in East Cleveland, which is, if you're not from the area, East Cleveland is the bad part of Cleveland.
There's a good part of Cleveland?
West Cleveland.
There's a safer part of Cleveland. There actually is a better part. Like downtown's fine.
And that's better. I said good.
Yeah. Westlake, that whole area is like bougie.
Yeah.
Rich people.
Sandusky, Chicago, those are all better than East Cleveland.
But I'll have him at the very end. Like presentation's done, testing is done. It's like we're getting ready to go to the range and do the practical side. And Jared will get up and do the scare tactic. And that's what he'll say. It's like, when you're in a situation, the reason we build and harp on fundamentals, and for some of you, we've gone back and like we've talked about things that you've known since you were 5 years old and your dad first introduced you to hunting. Mm-hmm. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because we build on the fundamentals so that when we get into a situation, it's monkey brain. We're right there. We got the OODA loop going. We know what's going on because our body will just do it. That way we can be clear-minded to decide what we're doing in that moment. Take it a step further, we train under duress.
Yes.
So getting elevated heart rates, getting people to yell at you, we throw hot brass at your face, like things to agitate you, to simulate that environment. Because, and this is where the last thing I say to people is I get very serious and I say, if you are a gun owner and there is an event where you need to brandish your weapon, you should not brandish it unless you're going to pull the trigger.
Right.
That is the bottom line, is that you need to decide right now a couple things. First of all, like technical things, like your will, your affairs, get your affairs in order because you might die. Like you might die today. Mm-hmm. You have to be okay with that from a very much like practical standpoint of
you can't have one without the other when you're talking about this.
Where does my money go if I die? Where do my things go when I die? Is my wife taken care of or my kids taken care of? Then you get more into the kind of meta, like okay, like exactly like you said, Jeff, if I'm picking up my kids from school and I'm outside, you're allowed to have your gun on school property as long as it's secured in your vehicle. So I'm allowed to bring secured. So if I bring my gun, if I take my kids to school, my gun can be in my car. It's legal. I just can't bring it into the school. And I can't take it out of the car, put it in my waistband.
Clarification: you can't get caught bringing it into school.
Of course.
This episode is never.
And to be honest with you, like our company trains a lot of local police officers.
Yeah.
So to be completely honest, like I have a direct line with our local captain, and I was on school property one time, and I said, "Hey, we're in a specific environment where the tensions were pretty high."
Yeah.
And I said, "I know this is technically school property," and he said, "I don't care if you carry. Just when you see me, let me know, and then let whoever else is working know that I gave you permission. We're good to go."
Yeah. And now, some people hearing this might be like, "That's illegal." Actually, police have the right to enforce whichever laws they choose.
It's true. Also, and this isn't gray area. I have my guard card in Ohio, my G card, G license, white card. There's a bunch of different names
Wilson
for it.
had his green card for a while too.
Yeah, different color.
Just kidding.
Not even green.
But it gives me an added layer of jurisdiction in certain environments to carry.
That's interesting.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I've gone through a ton of extra training with like alongside Ohio Police Officer Training Academy. So I just have an extra layer.
Can I probably have you ever thought about going into law enforcement?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Like, is that something like even modern days? Is that still something that's in the back of your mind?
If my own business just somehow collapsed, it would be exactly right. And I would go to more of a community department where it's more like, I don't want to pull people up for speeding on a day-to-day basis. I want to help people. I want to, break up domestic disputes, but also like teach kids.
So not
to be
West
better.
Cleveland.
No. I actually have our local law enforcement agency told me I'd have a job as soon as I wanted. But I want to be like a school resource officer, somewhere I can enforce and secure, but also teach kids like how to be good people,
That's cool.
Truly good people. So
appreciate that, Tom.
Yeah, that'd be my goal. But where was all that going? Talking about
somebody eating donuts and being big.
Yes. So
you said you were bring full circle.
So no. But going back to having a gun on school property, I get very serious and I tell people, if you're gonna brandish it, you better be prepared to pull the trigger. If you're gonna be prepared to pull the trigger, you have to be prepared to deal with the consequences. That's your death, or you killing somebody who you intend to kill, or you killing somebody you don't intend to kill. And alongside of that, there's a whole bunch of you're going to be civilly sued. The family, that person could have just wasted 12 people in a school. You shoot them, his family is going to sue you.
Right.
Because they're also pieces of garbage, and that's the society we live in. Yeah. Doesn't matter. That's always the case.
Yeah.
They're going to try to get money out of you. So be prepared for that. You have insurance for that. I carry 2 different levels of insurance for that. If I'm working on...
What are your policy numbers?
Also, when I work in security, the company that I work with...
This is all joke time.
The company I work with also has an additional layer of insurance. But the biggest thing for me is that and the next layer to that is if you're going to be prepared to take a life, you need to be prepared to save it. So if I'm carrying a gun, I'm carrying a tourniquet. And if I can, I'm carrying my gunshot wound kit. So my car always has my gunshot
Never
wound.
thought of that. That's fascinating.
So you have to be prepared to do both. And it's not just...
Not legally, but like...
No.
Morally.
yeah.
You have... this is a huge
It's the
responsibility.
responsibility.
And you need both. So tourniquet is like the entry level life-saving device, but then I would go trauma shears, like Israeli bandage, like everything you need to stop that. Chest seals.
I learned how to do
These
in Rambo.
bandages, do they have those little tassels on them?
Yeah.
In Rambo, he takes a bullet, takes the gunpowder, and cauterizes his own wound. I've always wanted to try that on
Wouldn't
someone.
recommend it.
Have you tried, like, if you shoot somebody and the bullet only goes halfway through, could you fire another bullet so that it, like, kind of pushes it?
I've tried it. It works okay.
The guy died.
Yeah,
He
it works okay about half the time.
did not make it well.
Yeah, no, but the takeaway is, it's like I have predetermined that if in that moment, I train a lot, and I trust that I will be able to physically take the right action, even when my adrenaline is just jacked out of my mind.
Do you think, I don't even know if this is a responsibility that someone has, but like for someone who interacts with people or does I will accept you on the CTW or gives do people how often do people go, no, you can't? Like how often do people or conceal carry? Do people go sorry, we're not passing you. You cannot conceal carry. Or is this something that everyone can do?
No, it's not. You will get failed. But
okay,
okay. So the way, and part of this is just like my method of teaching in general. I don't believe that anyone should fail based on the lack of ability. It's
aptitude.
Even actually attitude and aptitude are the 2 things we teach. So your attitude towards safety is important, but also your knowledge. It's your aptitude. So if you don't have those 2 things, then you're not ready. But I have you for 8 hours. I can change your aptitude. That's what I'm here for. I can't change your attitude.
Right.
So, and I've been lucky because I basically do private classes. So I don't just open up to the public to sign up at will. It's people I know or people
word of
who know
mouth
people.
Type of stuff,
and we have a good community. So generally speaking, these people are all experienced. They have a good attitude. I only had a few that I was nervous about. And by the time we were through the day, it was fine. But yeah, bottom line is you have to decide, already predetermined, like Nelson was saying. Like I tell it to, I say it out loud to Jen all the time. If we're in a bad part of town, she goes, "You have your gun, right?" And I say, "Stop asking me that. You're making me a target by saying it out loud.
Right.
Shut up."
Right.
But yes, I have my gun. I always have my gun. Always.
Yeah.
But I've decided that, I think it came to a head.
Do you have it right now?
No. I'm not saying there's not weapons in this room. Yeah. I'm not saying there's not weapons in this room.
2 tickets to the gun show right here.
Put those away, Nels.
But
Starting to sweat.
I've always said to Jen, like, if there's a school shooting and I'm outside, I'm going in, and I don't care if I die. Like I am ready from all those levels. Like I have already decided that I am ready, and if that's how I'm going to go down,
Carry the weight.
What a noble way to go down.
Yeah, and carry the weight of what it
Amazing
means
Lord.
to have
That's what
a
I'm saying.
concealed carry. Because like no one's doing.
I know a guy can set that up for
Like
you.
no one's intended. Like no one's goal for having a concealed carry should be like, how do I get into a
use it.
kerfuffle today?
Yeah.
It's like I appreciate that's part of. And I don't know if what you just explained is a part of every trainer's goal.
No, it's not.
But I appreciate that's the weight you put on it
No,
because
I
it
actually
is
made a girl-
something that you shouldn't take lightly.
I gave-
As someone who's I'm gun shy. I'm not anti-gun, but I'm gun shy. I'm not around them a lot. Like I appreciate that. Like
I got so kind of really heavy in the last class I did because it was all people from our church. And I gave them like the 10 out of 10, like
Sermon.
come to Jesus moment where this is like, this is real.
Right.
Like it is very real.
It's not a joke. It's
And
not
I had a girl, definitely
hobby.
not going to say her name. She's a sweetheart, but she
Sarah Taylor.
Yeah, no, Sarah was in that class actually.
Was she really?
Yeah, she was. This girl had a full blown panic attack.
Yeah.
Because I think it just hit her. That, like this
How
isn't
real
just
it
like,
is.
oh, I can pull it out and scare the bad guy. It's like, nope, you pull that out. You are going to put
have to be ready to
6
use it.
rounds in the middle of their chest.
You become
Till
a
they
target as
stop
well.
moving.
Center mass.
Yes. Kill them. And then she came up. She's like, I don't feel good. I don't think I can do this. And I said, that's fine. Go home, think about it, and you can hop in on another class, and that's just fine. And she did. And she did great. And I was super proud of her, and she's awesome. I'm so happy for her.
Good for her. That's very self-aware.
Yeah. No, and I love
I couldn't do it.
so far, my experience with people has been this self-awareness. They've been like, I don't know if I'm ready to, and I was like, do you want your certificate? And he's like, I don't think I'm going to get my CCW because I don't think I'm ready to carry a gun. And I said, that's great. If in 3 years from now, when your certificate that I give you expires, if you still want to do this, I will just issue another one. You don't have to pay the $90 and get another class. I'm not worried about it. So I've had plenty of that. So it's been good. But you really, to kind of reel us back in, you really have to predetermine what you're going to do and through your own moral filter. And I actually had this, like, do you ever have a moment where things become so surreal that you actually become like lightheaded or like, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I was,
Yeah, I've done drugs before.
yeah, I know.
Nelson, focus.
I was working in security for a friend of mine's security company, and we were working on a film set because there were celebrities, and they hired us to come shoot. And it was in Ohio, which is where we can legally do this. So we're on the set, and I'm just for one day I was kind of floating around, and then another day I was at a gate,
You were
just
placed.
letting people in and out. Yep. And I'm like, there's a couple different levels of security guard, and like my boss, his name is Ron. He's ex-military. He's like the highest level. He can carry a gun. Federal buildings. He has a.
He has a badge?
Yeah,
That's
Well,
awesome.
I have a badge too.
I want a badge.
I have a badge.
Like, is it shiny?
I just imagine him like walking around with like a gun in the air, like I can do this legally.
Well,
I
the
mean,
the
yeah.
ending of the movie, you just hold it up. I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Like, is it a shiny badge or is
Yeah.
it like a license?
No, it's a shiny badge.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I have one. Like,
I want to see that.
I'll show it to you at some point.
Man.
But it just says like personal protection officer is what we technically are, and like he can carry in federal buildings. Most countries he can fly with his.
Oh wow.
Anyone can fly with it depending on the laws of the state you're going to. There's just a different process.
New York
Really?
State is
Not New York, California, Illinois, liberal states you cannot. But
I didn't know you could fly with a concealed carry.
Yeah, you have to check into your luggage and you have to declare it.
Wait,
I've done it a
your
few
luggage
times.
or
Your
carry?
No, your
Okay, yeah, it goes
in the
under
belly of the plane.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
because I don't consider that concealed carry. Like,
Yeah.
So okay, I was thinking like they were
Oh, no.
carrying
No,
it
you
on
can't
the
get on
plane.
the plane
Okay,
with a gun.
only marshals
Yeah,
can.
just
like,
marshals
okay.
and law enforcement.
Okay.
Some-
Okay, that makes more sense.
But then you have the-
I knew you could travel
yeah.
with guns.
Yep.
Okay.
The next tier down would be like me. So I can carry a gun, open, concealed, doesn't matter. On the location or around the person we're assigned to protect, I have as much or more jurisdiction than police officers. It's kind of an interesting little fun thing that most people don't know is that
And yours is still like you still actively have.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
yeah. So, but anyway, and then there's like basically event staff. Like they're checking wristbands, telling people where the bathrooms are. Like there's still security. They're going to stop a crazy person from running up and doing something bad, but they don't have a gun.
Right.
I'm open carrying with like a duty belt. So, duty. But I was at this gate and there's like three, there's Discovery Channel. There's 3 producers just working around in and around this gate in a little tent on their computers. And the one girl is this very tall black woman who's very sweet and got me tacos. What a wonderful legacy. I'll never see her again. But my knowledge of her is that she's the lady who got me tacos, and it was wonderful.
Food's a lovely.
Food is.
Yeah,
And she got me coffee. She's just an absolute sweetheart. So nice. And she was like, usually when we go to these places, we don't have armed security. Like people might have concealed carries, but like your company, like you guys got military, and there was a couple law enforcement on our team, and like I got my Glock 19 on my hip, and she's like, if someone came in here like shooting up the place, would you take a bullet from me? I was like, I had that moment, like that sinking feeling where I got lightheaded, and I was like,
she understands your role,
yeah,
and she's questioning.
I was like,
do you have what it?
Holy shit, like, and I said, absolutely, like that's what I'm here to do. Yeah. And I kind of freaked out. And I was like, I don't really want to do that, but like you have to predetermine what you're going to do.
But also, the risk that comes with that job also comes with a paycheck that reflects that risk.
Yeah, it's good money. It's real good money.
Did you meet any celebrities?
Yeah, tons of them. I mean, it was the Street Outlaws for Discovery Channel, if you ever watched the show. No, but I worked with Discovery for other reasons.
Was that the racing show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, Ron just got done with the tour with Ramaswamy, my boss.
Oh, Vivek.
Yeah. So since he's
unfortunate turnout in Iowa.
Yeah, but
Trump though, anyways.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah,
no surprises there.
Sorry, I know that was like a crazy.
We haven't had your insight on the show before, so this is
no. If it comes to guns or gun, and then again, like goes back to my like centrist thoughts on a lot of the issues. It's like, from a perspective of
anti-authority centrist.
Yeah. So if I'm standing at a gate, I don't want a psychopath that has a gun that has access to an AR-15 and unlimited ammo. Like that's because I'm putting myself closer into that danger now. So it becomes way more real that I'm like, yeah, fundamentally, we should all have guns, but realistically, I don't want a crackpot coming in here. Yeah. And trying to attack a celebrity, and I'm the meat shield. Like, I don't want that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it becomes very real, and then you go, I don't think this should be okay. But I've said the same thing. Everyone who wants to argue with me, I've said the same thing. If I can give up all my guns, when I say all, I'm not a gun nut. I have a few. If I could give them
cabinets,
a few cabinets. Now I have three pistols, like a long distance rifle, kind of a fun plinking rifle. And then I have my AR-15.
Those are all the ones that are registered. I got you.
Wink, wink. No, they're all legal, legally purchased.
Serial sanded off.
Yep. No, I even have pictures of the serial numbers because I sent it to my insurance company because they're all insured. So I have my AR-15 for the zombie apocalypse or the Russian invasion. That's pretty much all I really. And it sits. It's too expensive to shoot it. So,
but
I didn't even think about that.
Amazon
rounds are expensive.
Yeah.
So I just
most people that have a decent amount of guns, like multiple guns, when they're buying ammo, it's usually not for practice. They're buying ammo to stockpile ammo in case of a Red Dawn type situation.
Yeah, I have a lot of ammo.
But there are training bullets you can get that are very inexpensive that are basically like
about a third of the price.
Blanks.
Yeah. No, they're just. I mean, they would still kill you. But and actually, this is really interesting. I know we're going way off here, but my dad is pretty liberal, and he shot with us over Thanksgiving. He came out. My brother, who's Adolf Hitler, far right, has
the age gap between you two is crazy.
Yeah, he has a lot of.
I thought Adolf Hitler was dead.
He's the type that's going to push the limit. So like he has legal accessories on his gun that make it borderline illegal.
Okay, so everything he bought was legal.
Yep.
But putting all this together,
exactly,
make it extreme.
Questionably legal.
Questionably legal in terms of like, I mean, and I can just say it because it's not illegal, but a binary trigger. So what it does is
so
pull the trigger,
gender fluid.
shoots one. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That would be non-binary.
Oh, non-binary. Oh, so okay, gotcha.
So you pull the trigger, it shoots once. You release the trigger, it shoots again. So it's as fast as it when you shoot it. It sounds like a full auto, which is illegal, or you have to have a tax stamp.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's legal right now. It's perfectly legal. It's actuated by two different.
And
movements.
usually, when they make those things illegal, there's usually a grandfather clause.
Yeah, so he would
which
be
is
fine anyway.
difficult to prove. That
so we won't get to that movie till Christmas.
Yeah, but my dad, I told my brother like, don't throw him into this and have him shoot the gun with the binary trigger. Like, let me go through a safety briefing. I'm going to teach him. I'm going to put one round in the mag so he can feel the recoil. But if he like freaks out and throws the gun, it's not going to like shoot me.
Would he throw it?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I think Jeff might have peeked there because it almost blew my ears out of the water.
Sorry.
That's all right. I liked it.
He did not.
No, nice. So
I haven't peeked yet. That's good to know.
But my dad, we're shooting. Actually, same thing came up. He's like, "Man, isn't this expensive?" And I said, "Yeah, you shot about $30 of my ammo today." And he's like, "Wow." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I buy it in the thousands. I'm not worried about it." And I explained like hollow point versus ballpoint or practice ammo. And he's like, "Wait, so what's the point of hollow point? Doesn't that like make a bigger hole in their chest?" I'm like, "No, actually, it's not at all. The point of a hollow point is because it mushrooms open and it stops quickly. So and actually there's been an argument made that law enforcement should carry ball ammo because it'll penetrate like a car door or a wall, and they need that penetration. Whereas the rest of us don't want our balls to penetrate. I wanted to get through and stop the threat. I know. I keep saying penetration. And
you just said balls.
Jeff's really trying to hold it in.
But I don't get why it's funny, Jeff.
Keep it together, man.
But he was like, so you're telling me that I shoot someone in the chest with a 9mm hollow point, it's going to go just a few inches in and mushroom open and stop. I said, yes, it's equivalent of me throwing a dart at your chest versus a brick. Yes, the brick technically could probably do more damage, but it's going to stop. and the odds of it flying all the way through and hitting all your vitals and shredding them like, the liberals would like you to think is just wrong. Scientifically wrong. The reason we teach
You shoot a deer with an AR-15, it'll explode.
Yeah. It turn the lungs into the head. Oh my god. It'll turn it from boy to girl.
That's what Biden
I'm
said
definitely
recently.
getting into guns now.
Yeah. But
It's not true.
Dad
Biden-
asked me,
I know.
he said, why is that why law enforcement, shoots more than one round at a time? Because I would think just one round. I said, watch any body cam footage of a shooting. Shoot someone once, they will keep shooting at you. You shoot them twice, they will keep shooting at you. You shoot them 6 times, they will keep shooting at you. It's not until they bleed out or you shoot them in the head do they stop. That's what hollow points do. It's just, there's a crazy amount of misinformation
And also, that's why
lack of knowledge.
officers are usually trained to empty the clip.
Yeah.
Just fire all your ammo.
Are officers trained to shoot to kill or shoot to immobilize?
Shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill.
There's
And
no
And
point.
that's across the board.
Yeah.
Like they're not trained to like shoot the gun out of the hand, shoot him in the knee, drop him.
Anyone
like
who carries a gun should be
okay,
treated.
like, and I'm because I don't know this. I'm not asking like
Here's the reason why you shoot to kill. Let's say that I believe that I have a responsibility to try to shoot the gun out of the hand. Well, at 10 meters, my chances of doing that successfully are incredibly small, and so that bullet is likely to go past your hand and hit something else in the background instead, possibly a person. If I instead aim for center mass, which is more likely to kill, I have a greater chance of being successful in hitting my
bigger
target.
target.
Really, we don't even say kill. We say shoot to stop the threat.
Yes.
So if I shoot you twice in the chest and you're like, I'm dying, I'm going to throw my gun away from me because I'm scared and I want to live, then
The threat's over.
I'll stop shooting.
Self-defense is the same thing. Like even hand-to-hand self-defense, the point of self-defense is not to beat up your attacker; it's to
stop the threat.
Stop them
stop
from
the threat.
attacking you.
Yeah.
So does that answer your questions?
It does. Yeah.
I do have a lot of knowledge on the subject. So.
And most gun nuts, like even your brother probably, like would give almost all the same answers. He might word it a little bit more radically, but his overall point's going to be the same, which is like, no, the point of this is to stop the threat.
Yeah.
Like I don't have all this to kill people; it's to stop the threat.
Well,
and sometimes it's going to involve killing people.
to bring this back to full circle. I talked about moving that line, that crooked line between moral good and moral bad.
Yeah.
Like I live in the country. There's
Yeah,
Which
I lock
country?
it that away.
Canada.
Sorry.
I
It's
am
country, so.
statistically very less likely to have an interaction in a home invasion type situation. It's just statistical, just from every standpoint. Although there was a break-in not too far from here, an armed break-in, some meth heads rolled off of Route 30, major route, runs through Ohio, went to the first house they saw, which happened to be like this 80-year-old Mennonite lady, and robbed her at knife point. And it's all just to get a fix. And that's why they went in the first house they saw. It wasn't premeditated. It was, we need a fix. How
What
do we
was
get
the
it?
outcome?
They got caught eventually. They
Was
didn't
it
stab
lethal?
her. but-
Okay.
No, they didn't kill her, but so it's not statistically impossible.
Golly.
Meth
So-
is pretty cheap too, so they didn't need that much.
No. But my brother, the more radical brother, lives in Nashville. He lives in a nice house in a crappy neighborhood, from what I understand. He sends me, he has an app that has a shot tracker. Like it shows you the gunshots that are happening in the neighborhood.
That's a
And
thing?
It's constant. It's constant around him. He sent me a picture. There's a gang, MS-13, very lethal, very nasty gang.
Latin gang.
Yeah, he showed me. My brother has a chest rig, so I carry my gun concealed when I'm in public and I'm off duty. No, not doing security work. He carries it in a chest rig that's very visible. He has extra mags on his belt, and he's doing this with like his daughter, a little toddler, like in the cart. And I'm like, man, you're kind of out there, man. Like that just seems like a bit much. He's at his local Walmart, and there's a guy at the self checkout wearing an MS-13 jersey with MS-13 tattooed on his neck. And like he lives in the center of gang violence in Nashville, which you don't really associate Nashville with that. But
No.
the point is like, his line is different from mine. Like I'm comfortable.
His
here.
level of threat is different as well.
So LA,
And
rough
as,
town.
as Jeff and I have said in previous episodes where we talk about gun control and stuff, my preference would be that no person would need to own a weapon.
Yeah. Well, I think I started saying that point and then I got lost in the mud. If I could give, I did because I talked about how many guns I had.
Mm-hmm.
If I could give up all my guns and it would prevent if it would stop every school shooting or even one school shooting, I would give up in a heartbeat, but that's just not reality.
That's not the way it works.
And it's silly to think so. So, yeah. Screw the ATF and the NFA stuff. I hate it. I want a suppressor.
Also,
This episode is sponsored by the NRA.
Yeah.
I was actually about to say,
Pause for-
every gun,
It is not.
every person about our age that's into guns hates the NRA.
Yeah, so interesting you say that. I'm an NRA instructor, and I'm when I did my instruction course, it's a multi-day course, and my NRA counselor went through this at the beginning, and he also asked us to do the same with our subsequent classes that we taught. Someone said, brought up the NRA, and he said, well, off the record, there's two NRAs. There's NRA, the lobbyists. There's NRA, the instruction, and the people who actually care about the people's rights. We are the latter. We care about people's rights, but more importantly, we care about instruction and taking care of people and making sure people are safe. The NRA that everyone else knows is the lobbyists. They give us the bad rap. So the
And the left and right both hate them.
Yes, equally. I hate them. I'm an NRA instructor, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But there's only like two or three different ways you can teach it, and that was just the route that I went.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's obnoxious and annoying, and it's the way it is, though. Yeah.
And the reason the right hates the NRA, Jeff, is because almost every gun regulation and bad gun law that exists, the NRA has like written inside, like they're they've not. The lobbyists have not successfully defended gun rights at all. Yeah,
it's not black and white in any way. And in fact, someone told me that I doubt if this is actually true, but he said he saw somewhere on Fox News that ammunition manufacturing facilities are like 90% liberal owned. So he's like, they're creating an artificial scare to inflate the prices. Scarcity. And I'm like, that seems pretty deep entangled for me, but maybe. I'm not saying no. I don't know. I mean,
that's a level of conspiracy that I find hard to believe.
Well, you guys watched The Fall of the House of Usher yet on Netflix? That's when I just started it.
No,
it's all the same characters. It's like the same. It's like this.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, the main, I guess, antagonist.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
I know, I've heard the title recently, but I don't know anything about this show.
It takes some elements from like Edgar Allan Poe's writings, but it's like a modernized.
Oh, the Raven guy.
And the dad, the main, I guess he's the antagonist, as he's talking to a federal officer who's trying to indict him on all these charges of fraud and conspiracy and all these things because he's got this big pharmaceutical company and he's evil, and he is. And he says, what do you do when life gives you lemons? And the officer says, you make lemonade. And he's like, wrong. And he goes in this long spiel about
I've seen the clip.
Yeah, like you create a media blitz about why lemons are necessary. Then you partner with Gucci to come out with these lemon handbags. And the next thing you know, Kanye's got limited edition lemon shoes. And now and it's just this whole thing, and he's basically referring to the opioid crisis because that's what he's in the show. That's what he's created. So, but that that doesn't fall too far from maybe liberals are gun activists and they're just playing everyone like puppets. We're creating this artificial demand.
I wouldn't say it's liberals that do it, but like we talked about with go listen to our Off 250 episode, Patreon only. We talked a bit about conspiracy theorism, and there's a great
Wag the dog.
Yeah, Wag the dog. There's a great George Carlin line, which is conspiracy isn't necessary when incentives align. Right, so a lot of the time, what we look at and we're like, "Oh, it's a great big conspiracy." It's actually just like a bunch of people that saw an opportunity to get a bag and took it.
Benefit from it.
And I do. My little brother's extremely intelligent, and you guys, if you ever have a chance, you should have him on here. He's like Ivy League, college rugby player. Now he's in the military. He just finished a detail at
what's his name?
James.
James, come on.
I met James.
Open invitation.
We talked about this back in the COVID days. Like the amount of people that you would have to get on the same page and willing to cover each other's asses for a giant conspiracy, like some of the things surrounding COVID, is extremely unlikely.
Right.
What's more likely is you have a series of opportunists whose interests commonly align, and then the conspiracy isn't a conspiracy. It's, oh, wait, Fauci makes money from doing this?
Right.
Well, why wouldn't he want everyone to have a COVID
my
shot?
job is more secure if I don't talk about this one thing?
Yeah.
Easy. I don't talk about that.
Yeah. So he actually introduced me to that concept way before, and I was like, oh my gosh, my mind has just been blown. Why am I so narrow-minded?
Yeah.
But so...
we've been recording for close to 3 hours.
That's
this
a long
has
time.
been edited down for time significantly, but we have some rapid questions before we let you go, Tim.
Would you guys recommend this film?
What film? What are we talking about?
Oh,
La Confidential.
La Confidential.
100%. No, it's not for everybody. My wife probably thinks it's stupid. She'd rather see Titanic. That's why we're sleeping in separate rooms now.
That and
you made a good choice.
Yeah. And I fart a ton in my sleep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Nelson.
I would. In fact, I already have recommended this to people.
Yeah.
Who? Tell me them now, right now. All the names.
Yeah.
Prove it.
Jeff is
name 100.
Jeff is turning into Russell Crowe's character. He's reaching across the podcast desk, grabbing Nelson by the throat.
What are their names?
He's sweating.
Give me names.
Profusely.
Where's Rachel?
Oh, it's Rachel. Oh, cool. I like Rachel.
I would also recommend this. Again, not to everyone, not to kids or anything, but just people that like a good action.
I specifically recommend this to children.
Cop drama, it's good. It's
Draw your moral line in the sand, child.
And
Patrick, my 5-year-old son.
Yeah.
The
Time
movie,
to draw the line.
The movie went in some ways which I expected,
now,
but then there was also some writing things that I didn't expect. So, I appreciate there were some parts in this movie that was unexpectable.
It to me has the really the classic but not cliche plot twist at the end, which I really love.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend.
Turns out the guy was dead the whole time.
Yeah.
Wrong movie, man. Would you change the rating? It's rated R.
No, it's rated R.
Very violent.
There's nudity.
I think there's some boobies.
There's plenty of boobies.
At least 2 scenes of boobies.
At least 2 boobies.
Jeff is documented. There's at least 2. One just a side boob.
I have the timestamps too if you want them.
You see Russell Crowe's butt. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think
Man,
I think that's before that.
if it was Guy Pearce's butt, I'd be rewatching this movie. That bro's got some butt.
I don't think they coddle to the male audience like they do now. It's like, hey, let's see this guy's butt. It's like, I don't want to see his butt. See my own butt.
Yeah, no, rated R works well. And there's a whole scene about how he says the F word a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole dialogue about how he uses language and stuff. And to put this movie on TV and make it TV friendly and cut that scene, I don't think would do it justice. So yeah, I wouldn't want to. So
And,
it
but
needs
also,
to stay
I feel
on.
that there's a lot of times where language or nudity feels gratuitous and unnecessary. I think the nudity in this is gratuitous and unnecessary, but the language all feels appropriate.
See, I don't even remember the nudity. So maybe
The first one's the potheads. The second one is, I think, the fleur-de-lis party.
I don't remember the boobies.
Which, ironically
I'll look
enough,
it up later.
fleur de lis is used heavily in the French place.
The French.
The France, I think, is the French place.
Yeah, fleur-de-lis is like a super
it's in, like,
common
they
symbol.
use it a lot in things, and
it's like he saw it
yeah.
on a business card, then he sees it in Boston, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, there's a connection." It's like, and just I grew up East Coast Canada, where there's a lot of French influence. And I'm just like, this
what
could
I was
be
going to
anything.
say is I started the
Canadian?
episode with naming this movie La Confidentielle.
Ah,
So I wasn't
la la,
too
confidential.
wackadoodle. 1997 has this movie aged well.
I think it's aged terrifically. It's a period piece, and it feels great.
Yeah,
Again, beef with Titanic is that
it didn't.
it doesn't age well.
But some would say it's doing better than Titanic is now.
You mean the actual boat?
Yeah, no, I'm saying like this being on the top 250 and Titanic.
Oh
not.
no, I'm saying
it's like this movie's got more
yeah,
longevity.
No, this movie. I'm saying this movie is.
Yeah.
And Titanic is not.
Right.
Screw Titanic.
This movie has aged
yes,
well.
100%.
But back in the day, you were pissed
But-
that Titanic took the awards and this one
yes,
didn't.
I mean I wasn't mad back then because I was
You were so
10
pissed.
years old.
You were so pissed.
I thought you meant like
This was the one
emotionally
year
the
of
movie
awards.
aged better than the
97
boat. I'm
Oscars.
like, well, of course, the boat's somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. And
it's preserved
last
nicely.
time they tried to go
Prove
check
it,
it out.
and
prove
won.
it, Tim.
Well, those guys tried to, and they used a freaking Xbox controller to steer the little submarine and explode.
Not just an Xbox controller, an off-brand Xbox controller.
Wait, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It was so cheap.
Pretty sure it was Mad Cats or something
Yeah,
like that.
Oh my
Cats.
gosh, that's so sad.
They were like radio back batteries.
Frustrating.
They couldn't get Duracells, dude.
They used the batteries that came from like when you buy remotes.
like Chinese. They're
the
super
ones that-
Chinese. Yeah.
What's wrong with Chinese?
We have
It's a
whole
different
podcast.
episode.
Anyway, last question. Next
Two
question.
more questions. Would this be in your personal top 250?
I think it would be.
Top three.
I think this
No,
is
no, the question was
best
top
noir
250.
we've seen yet.
Yes, I would agree.
Top three is encompassed by 250.
Prove it.
I'm not great with math or arithmetic.
There is no 3 in 250. 250 or two different numbers.
I don't want to know one listens to this podcast.
Shout out to both of our listeners.
Tim, just to give you some insight, I don't even listen to the podcast.
It's my top three.
Last question. Why? I guess it would be on my top 250 as well. Why do you think it is on the top 250? So outside of our opinions about the film, what's kept this movie on the list of pinnacle movies?
Great screenwriting, great writing, great acting, great cinematography,
Great cast.
great cast. Although back then it probably might have been
They were
mediocre.
taking a chance. They were
Yeah,
taking a chance.
that's true.
with
The cast was not as
It's
renowned as it is now.
Phenomenal example of noir. I think.
yeah. It keeps
Great
you
trumpet
like,
music.
It's slow developing but never boring. Like I love that.
Yeah.
I hate if it gets too slow, man. It's tough.
And I like those movies. Like in this movie did. And like I can't think of other ones I've done. Like there's moments in the movie. They're not necessarily false endings, but like you think that they've come to a conclusion. Like you think that it's starting to wrap up.
Oh,
and then
Lord of the Rings:
I
Return of the
look
King.
at the timer and I'm like, I still got another hour left.
Yeah,
I'm like, and that excited.
There
That excited me because I was like, I wanted this to keep going, but there was a couple parts where I was like, okay, it's wrapping up now. I was like, nope, not even
Yeah.
close.
There was a few times where I almost felt like it was actually just like the game. It almost felt like there were several things going on that were disconnected.
The rapper, the
and then
game.
they put it all together. No, the LA nor the game.
I've not.
Yeah, like they're unrelated cases, but you're kind of solving them all.
Yeah.
like subsequent. Like they're running
Very,
parallel to each other.
very good game. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Anything
we'll
else?
probably do really well on the Switch.
I think we'll do fine on the Switch.
I probably will be. That's all I have. Tim, something we like to do with the rest of our guests, but we're not going to do for you, is we usually let them plug stuff, but we don't have time for that. So thank you for being on the show.
I don't know which thing we're laughing at.
No, seriously though, would you like to plug anything? Is there anything that if people would like to?
I'm laughing because, all right, audience at home, Tim has a 13-year-old boy's imagination. So I knew that.
Every time I say plugs, is that
Yeah,
what it is?
he's asking if he wants to plug something, and he's
I'm just imagining.
he just evolves.
Like Jeff has a butt plug in this whole time.
would you like to try it?
It's kind of nice.
Can I offer you? Can I offer you a plug?
I'll clean it.
Maybe.
Is there anything that you wanted to plug?
Is there anything that if someone would like to find you and what you do and some of the things you mentioned?
I
do
don't,
you think you'd
me
like to-
personally, I don't really care. I got a lot of different stuff going on. Not really.
Especially your policy numbers. Could you please state those?
And my Social Security. Yeah. No, I would just encourage people to, seek that moral high ground and filter your decisions through it. So
you got some last words from Tim.
Well, sorry, I didn't have I don't really care if people find my main business, which is
we'll tag you on social media.
Yeah,
so people
video and photo.
Linked below.
It's whatever.
SOAPBOXR Media.
Yeah, it's whatever. I don't really that just because this the business model. It doesn't really matter if people find me or not. And then the gun stuff. Yeah.
I as a personal friend of yours, though, Tim, there are some things that you post.
That we'd really like you to stop.
No. That I get excited about. And for you, it's those passion projects.
I got flagged on Instagram for posting a picture of a child who had Down syndrome that we had raised a ton of money for.
You got flagged?
I got banned for a month.
Why? Did they think you were making a joke?
Probably.
Was it the basketball?
Yeah. Yeah, we raised
because I was just about to say I loved
Down syndrome and he just was diagnosed with leukemia, as if life wasn't shitty enough. And so I had very little part in the fundraiser itself, but I always cover it. I always shoot it, and it always benefits.
I just think it's hilarious that somebody on Instagram was like, "Well, this is a really tasteless joke."
Yeah,
it's like not a joke.
Yeah, this is.
Did they tell you the reason why they thought it was?
No, because it's community guidelines. That's all they ever tell you. I've had gun stuff flagged, and it says the same thing. And I'm like, "There's no guns. It's not religious. It's not hate speech. Like, it's got to be because the kid has Down syndrome. They think I'm making fun of him." But I'm like, "Dude, we raised $10,000 for this kid to get cancer treatments, and in 2 hours of just the community coming together." So
if I could,
very frustrating. I guess my Instagram.
If I could
plug me.
I was going to say, if I could plug you real quick, I just want to say, I've seen a lot of your stuff that you've put on that's been passion projects, whether it's been for a company that works with fostering, or the what you just mentioned recently that got flagged, like that the sports with
Baskin Robbins
and stuff like. But then you've also helped me and my wife directly doing stuff that and helping us with
basically the reason Jeff has.
Yeah. So I just
her name was just redacted,
and the reason I'm getting to that is just I think there is some value if people find you on social media because there's content that you put up that are passion projects of yours that have deeper impact than just some of the companies you work for.
There's a formula behind that, and it's not for self promotion. I only post the things I do things daily that are either boring or they're just purely for profit. I shoot tools, I shoot pieces of cars,
tools and things people use for mechanic reasons.
Both of them.
Oh man, yeah, and those just aren't exciting. So I try to elevate people's stories. Or
you recently did a video for a project we did at our church for a student.
Did I?
Brady
Ramella.
Oh, Brady.
Yeah.
I think you said Brandy. I don't even know.
Brandy. No, Brady.
Yeah, Brady.
You can redact the names and stuff. But yeah, it's
don't redact it.
You do projects and stuff that are just life giving.
Yeah.
Not necessarily money making, but life giving.
Well, if I may finish up by tooting my own horn.
Please do. We want you to toot. You've been tooting all episode.
The goal from day one, then I've been really, I don't want to say blessed because I hate when people say that.
Hashtag
blessed.
Hashtag
burp. Is that I really want to reverse tithe. I'd love to get to the point where I'm keeping.
Do you want to get money back?
Yeah.
From the church?
Give me your money.
Tim.
I would like.
I'd like the church to give me 10% of their income.
That went awry. No, Jeff.
Are people doing this? I'm in.
Is that a thing?
I'm totally in.
Reverse tithe. I would like to give away 90% and keep 10. So I just have to get to 1 million in sales to really do that comfortably, or right around 1 million. It doesn't have to be exactly 1 million. And I'm not all that close right now, but I am very much on my way. And so the goal has always been to do enough commercial work to be able to do that stuff and do it for free. Yeah. So that is literally pillar, goal, vision, whatever, number one. Always has been.
Thank you for being on the episode. Love talking to you. We'll tag in some of the stuff when this episode airs. And
I hope you tag me.
We'd love to have you back for another episode down the road.
Well, considering my desk is 6 feet to my left right now, I'd say
many episodes that are going to be airing in the future. He'll be in the room.
Yeah, I always am.
So you've been in the room for 2 now already. So we're glad. Thank you for being here. And Nelson, do you have anything else to add?
Join us next week for Groundhog Day.
Yes. I don't think you had to say it like that.
Join us next week for Groundhog Day.
Man, that was better.
Feels like we've already done that one.
Deja vu all over again.
Yeah. Been there, done that. Thank you guys. See you next week. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did.
If you have found value in what we discussed today, please consider leaving us a rating and review. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you have any feedback or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you.
That's right. Tell us why we're wrong.
If you want even more content and ways to engage with us and each other, check out our Patreon. page.
By supporting us there, you'll get access to exclusive bonus content and help us continue to create high-quality episodes, as well as help pay for our future plans. Links to our social media, merchandise, and Patreon are in the show notes.